맥스님 어서 오세요. 어서 오세요. 오늘 뭐 스트리밍 한다 그래서 오랜만에 방송 좀 켰습니다. 어서 오세요. 다들 명절은 잘 보내셨나요? 뭐 원래 여기 라이브엔 채팅 다 막아놨었어요. 뭐 이번만 그런 건 아니고 저번에도 그랬었죠. 자, 근데 왜 채팅이 안 올라오지? 테스트. 그래서 이번에 뭐 이번 새 시즌 관련한 내용하고 그 다음에 뭐 여러 가지 개선 사항들이 되게 많나 봐요. 그런 거 일단 얘기를 할 것 같아요, 오늘은. 그다음 다음 주에는 클래스별로 어떻게 변하나. 그다음 데미지 계산 좀 많이 바뀌는 것 같고 저항이랑 뭐 그런 것들 내용이 있어서 좀 지켜봐야 될 것 같습니다. 한동안 명절 돼가지고 게임을 많이 쉬었어요. 게임 자체도 안 하고. 아니 게임은 했지. 이제 방송용으로 좀 별로인 게임들 혼자서 했거든요. 예전에 방송했다가 한 10명도 안 봤던 그런 게임들 갑자기 그런 거 빠져가지고 한 며칠 동안 그것만 하고 막 그랬죠. 봤어요. 그거 오늘 공지에 올라왔더라고요. 전설 아이템 전승되던 거. 뭐 나름 대처가 나쁘진 않았다고 봐요. 지금까지 언디셈버를 봤을 때 그동안 거의 뭐 대응 없다시피 했었는데 뭐 나름 좀 빨리 공지도 올리고 처리도 하려고. 그래도 이제 새로 디렉터 나왔는데 어떻게 좀 하나 봐야 될 것 같아요. 근데 이제 저는 이번 시즌은 그래요. 그냥 뭐 있는 그대로 말씀드리면 언디셈버 같은 경우에는 그 룬기사가 너무 세게 나와가지고 그때부터 조금 핀트가 나가서 별로 해도 뭔가 의욕도 안 나고 그랬던 것 같아요. 열심히 막 끌어보려고 했었지만 이게 열심히 스펙업 하는 게 재미도 없고 그래서 약간 열정이 다 식어버렸어요. 그래서 뭐 한동안 언디셈버 잘 안 하고 그랬죠. 뭐 그래도 나름 그런 이런 거 저런 거 좀 처리하는 거는 보이는데 어떻게 될지. 대응하려면 진작 했어도 됐다. 그러니까 전체적으로 언디셈버가 뭐 문제에 대응하는 거 보면 제가 보기에는 능력 부족이 있는 것 같아요. 사실 뭐 디렉터가 혼자 다 할 수 있는 것도 아니고 회사의 내부적인 절차 같은 것도 있을 거고 그런 거 하나하나 다 따지다 보니까 너무 대응도 느려지고 능력도 없으니까 만약에 개발자도 좀 잘하는 사람들 많고 문제 바로바로 해결할 수 있으면 즉시 해결이 될 텐데 지금 경배장 닫아놓고 시간만 보내고 있잖아요. 그러니까 어떻게 보면은 능력 부족 때문에 문제 대응이 조금 되게 느려진다. 그런 상황인 것 같아요. 게임 회사가 너무 조금 능력이 없어서 하고 싶은 거가 있어도 잘 못하는 것 같고, 또 위에서는 엄청 쫄 거 아니에요, 죠? 빨리 성과를 내야 된다고. 아, 근데 뭐 다행히 그럼 대응은 했네요. 다행히도. 그래도 뭐 경매장도 닫고. 그러니까 제가 게임은 안 했는데 그 이슈는 보고 있었긴 하거든요. 뭐 어떻게 흘러가는지는 알고 있어야 되니까. 아, 진짜요? 너무 실망해서. 아, I don't care about it. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for your comment. 디아블로 4는 어떻게 바뀔까? 한 20분 남았습니다. 되게 오랜만에 방송하는 것 같네. 고단 메리트요? 사실 저 오리진 하고 있는, 그러니까 저는 오리진을 했으니까 오리진으로 말씀을 드리면, 근데 고단 메리트가 있으면 있을수록 게임이 금방 망할 것 같긴 해요. 그러니까 뭐 고단 메리트라고 해도 그 이득되는 게, 디아4요? 디아4는 고단이라고 하기에는 그 엔드게임 컨텐츠 자체가 없어요. 그것부터 해결해 줘야 돼요. 뭐 할 게 좀 생겨야 된다고 생각해요. 그냥 엔드게임에서 너무 할 게 없어서 그냥 캐릭터 키우고 끝났잖아요. 그죠? 맞아요, 맞아요. 그냥 백 찍고서 안 해버리니까. 사실 언디셈버도 계속 하다 보면은 할 게 되게 많아가지고 막 이것도 해야 되고 저것도 해야 되고 되게 뭔가 마음이 바쁘잖아요. 근데 디아블로는 그런 게 없어. 그냥 아이템 맞추다가 하면 끝이라서. 뭔가 그런 캐릭터를 육성하고 싶은 그런 마음을 들 수 있는 그런 컨텐츠가 필요한 것 같아요. 그게 없으면은 아마 뭐 계속 이렇게 돌아가지 않을까? 그래서 오늘 뭐 어떤 거 나올지 모르겠지만 지켜봐야죠 뭐. 그래서 오늘 주요 내용이 이거니까. 뭐 좀 우아할 만큼 좀 많이 바뀌는 게 있을까? 게임이 막 완전 다른 게임이 되거나 그런 정도의 변경사항이 있을까? 새 시즌이 나오는데요. 일단 기다려봐 한번 보죠. 뭐 나올지. 이제 15분 남았군요. 그래도 뭐 디아블로4 하다 보면은 그냥 생각 없이 하게 되긴 하는데, 또 막상 시즌2 나오면 욕하면서도 해보실 분들은 해보실 거란 말이죠. 저도 그 중에 하나고. 그렇다고 새로 시즌 나왔는데 안 해볼 수는 없잖아요. 그죠? 저도 해봐야 될 것 같고. 이제 정보 공개를 하다가 시즌이 새로 열릴 거고. 그래서 이번 주랑 다음 주 연달아서 라이브 스트리밍이 있을 것 같은데, 뭐 어떤 내용들이 나올지 궁금하네요. 야, 이제 14분 남았습니다. 14분. 지금도 디아블로4 하신 분이 없는 건 아닌데, 막 그렇게 막 엄청 많은 것도 아니고, 기껏해야 몇백 년 그런 수준 아닐까? 많이 하진 않을 것 같고. 그래도 이제 그 게임 방송하시던 분들은 또 다 한 번씩 기웃기웃 거리실 거고. 아니, 오늘 시즌이 열리는 건 아니고요. 시즌은 18일날 열립니다. 오늘 이제 선 내용 공개 하는 거예요. 내용 공개. 어떻게 변할 건지 그런 것들. 그래서 미리 좀 보려고 합니다. 뭐 저도 그렇게 막 기대는 하진 않아요. 기대는 하진 않고. 아, 어서오세요 권혜님. 근데 그래도 뭐 생각이 있으면 뭐 많이 바꿨겠지. 그거 바라보면서 보는 거 아닌가요? 뭐 바뀐 것도 없는데 이거 뭐 구경해봤자 뭔 의미가 있어. 일단 다음 시즌 내용하고 그 다음 자체적으로 개선이 좀 있는 것 같으니까, 그렇게 오랫동안 개발해놓고서 욕 엄청 많이 먹고 시즌 하나 보냈는데 또 욕 많이 먹고 점점 이제 고쳐지는 모습이 보이긴 할 건데, 이게 진짜 완전 저점을 찍었느냐 아니면 이제 내려갈 곳이 더 있느냐, 그거 문제죠. 그래서 만약에 그래도 뭐 한다고 하면 이제 원소술사 말고 다른 것도 하나 건드려 볼까 하는데, 일단은 원소술사는 키울 거고요. 제가 지금 그나마 많이 시간 투자한 게 원수술사라. 그리고 할 거 없으면 이제 딴 거 해야지. 다른 캐릭터. 사냥이 좀 답답하게 느껴질 수도 있어요. 저도 그렇게 생각하고, 이게 몬스터들이 좀 모팩 자체가 너무 적어서 그렇다라고 생각이 들긴 해요. 모팩이 뭐 엄청 많고 그런 게 아니라. 근데 아시다시피 언디셈버 하다 보면 그 제가 지금 제일 언디셈버 하면서 짜증나는 게 뭐냐면 그 프레임 떨어지는 거 있죠. 아니 사양이 아무리 높아도 게임이 최적화가 안 돼 있으니까 게임이 되게 하기가 불쾌해요. 그래가지고 그 좀 최적화를 좀 빨리 잡아줬으면 좋겠어. 뭐 약간 게임 할 맛이 떨어진다고 해야 되나? 아 라이젠이라 심해요? 인텔이면 안 그래요? 컴퓨터를 바꿔야 되나요? 너무 많이 떨어져요 프레임이. 그래요? 인텔이 아니 라이젠이 확실히 뭔가 문제가 있나 보네. 그래서 막 프레임 떨어지는 게 너무 심하다 보니까. 이렇게 문제 제기한 사람도 없을 거예요. 라이젠 쓰는 사람이 많지도 않을 뿐더러 언디하는 사람 자체도 적어서. 그러니까 몬스터 엄청 많을 때 보면은 사냥할 때 되게 버벅이는 느낌이 심하잖아요. 그래가지고 제가 원컴 방송을 해서 그럴 수도 있어요. 그럴 수도 있는데 아무튼 좀 많이 버벅이더라고요. 그럴 가능성도 좀 크겠네요. 방송이랑 같이 하다 보니까. 지금 4K로는 안 쓰고 있긴 합니다. 4K가 사양을 너무 많이 먹어서 지금은 4K가 아니라 그냥 FHD죠. 1080p로 송출하고 있어요. 그래서 되게 프레임 떨어지는 거가 제가 보기에는 저만의 문제는 아닌 것 같기도 하고 많은 분들이 그렇게 느끼시니까 그거 좀 최적화 좀 했으면 좋겠다. 모바일도 그렇고요. 모바일도 좀 심하더라고. 이게 게임이 아무리 재밌어도 그런 것 때문에 좀 왜 이러지 하면서 하기 싫어지는 게 있거든요. 막 게임 되게 잘하고 있는데 계속 버벅거리면 에이 안 해 하고 다른 거 하러 가지. 그러니까 해결 좀 해줬으면 좋겠는데 그럴 의지가 있을지 모르겠네. 자 이제 7분 정도 남았군요. 뭔 내용을 할까? 뭘 어떻게 바꾸는지 아예 감도 안 잡히는데? 지금 많은 분들이 기대 안 하시고 계신 거죠? 어떻게 바뀔지. 그냥 지금 언디셈버 디렉터 바뀌었는데 원래 저게 맞죠? 저번에가 소통이 없었던 거지. 원래 그렇게 쓰는 게 맞지. 그리고 지금 해결에 시간 걸리는 거는 제가 보기 능력 부족이고. 지금 맥스님은 기대하는 게 언디셈버 기대하시는 거고 디아4는 별로 기대 안 하시는 것 같아요. 아, 언디에 기대한다고요? 아, 저는 이번에 룬기사 때문에 조금 핀트 나가서 너무 세게 나와도 그것 때문에 그때부터 의욕 사라져가지고 현타 오고 쎄도 너무 세게 나와가지고. 일단은 1차적인 문제는 게임사가 그걸 실수를 한 게 문제죠. 전승을 하게끔 만들어가지고. 그래서 뭐 언디셈버 이슈가 있긴 했는데 뭐 이제 시작하나요?
Season 2 will be our biggest update to Diablo 4 since launch. With a new quest line, events to play as you drive back the vampiric horde, unholy vampiric powers to wield, and new endgame encounters to test your skill.
And players will need to harness the enemy's
네,
own
처음
magic
나오는
against them
거
to end
같은데.
this new
잠시만요.
evil before it's too late. In Diablo 4, the Season of Blood.
In Season 2, the people of Sanctuary have a new danger to face: invasion by an army of vampires. This shadowy vampire cult has laid claim to large areas of the world and have begun abducting innocent citizens to use in their dark rituals.
Everyone's lives are at risk, including your own.
In Season 2, players are going to uncover a plot led by a new ancient vampire named Lord Zir, who's awoken recently.
Lord Zir is a remnant of a lost age. Before there were humans in Sanctuary, it was inhabited by the firstborn children of Inarius and Lilith, who are known as the Ancients.
But because of Inarius' actions,
자, 일단은 시작은
powers
했습니다.
drawn away from them. But some among them were not strictly subject to a true death.
Zir and his cohort were banished
아,
to
잠깐
sea
이거
for an
좀
eternity in the city
키워드릴게요.
of the Ancients, but due to the events of Diablo 4, the city began to awake, with dire consequences for the humans living on the surface above.
During the events of Season 2, the player is going to contract a vampiric curse, but they're not under Lord Zir's control, which gives them a unique opportunity to strike back against the cult and stop Lord Zir's plans.
We'll encounter a variety of new characters this season, including a band of vampire hunters, one with a particularly shadowy past.
Seek out Zir's army. Kill as many as you can.
Eris is a professional vampire hunter. She's crossed and recrossed the wilds of Sanctuary, putting an end to the undead since long before the events of Diablo 4.
I need to go after the magistrate, and you're going to have to come along.
Eris is played by actor Gemma Chan.
아이고.
It's exciting to see the wealth of experience at the table for a
잠시만요.
wide variety of roles.
여기다
She was a great choice to breathe life into this character of a world-weary but determined vampire hunter with a lot of emotional complexity.
That's a bite mark. You're changing, aren't you? No, from the depth of that wound, you should have already. She is strong. She's compassionate towards others, but she's also witnessed
배우인데
a lot for it in
프로듀서야?
her life, so she's pretty emotionally guarded. And starts
블리자드
to
안에 있는
fix in her
사람인가?
worldview. Oh, you're going to change. I'm sorry, but whatever's preventing your cravings won't last forever. It never does.
She realizes that the player character has these vampire traits, which makes him a useful tool, but potentially a disposable one.
This is madness. Perhaps that's what it takes.
콘텐츠 얘기 안 하고 이상한데 돈 쓴다고요?
Vampiric powers can be acquired by defeating bloodseekers and minions of Lord Zir in order to acquire potent blood, which allows you to unlock or upgrade vampiric powers.
When you collect all of these various powers, they have costs, which are going to be detailed as part of the pack system. So armor pieces that you collect during the course of the season are going to have these packs associated with them.
And there are 3 types of packs, and you can use the boons they provide in order to fuel the blood seals for various vampiric powers. You can
이번에는
combine the power
장신구
of
말고
different blood seals
뭐야
in a
이거?
sanguine circle, so long as you have the appropriate combination of
완전
packs
새로운
in order
게
to power them.
들어왔네.
One thing we've really tried hard to do is to
보셨어요?
provide powers
완전
that enhance every
새로운
build so that there's no one right
그
way to play
정복자
or
보드처럼.
vampire fantasy.
There's one in particular that I like where as the player dashes, they turn to a cloud
오,
of bats,
뭔가
and they'll
또
curse
새로
creatures they
만들긴
pass
했네.
through along the way. As you kill those creatures, you're going to actually steal their souls. When you use certain abilities on your
그 다음에
character, all
그
of those souls
실
are
같은 거
unleashed, dealing devastating damage to
문장을
nearby creatures.
보석 대신에 방어구에도 넣을 수 있게 됐어. 심장은 장신구에만 됐었는데. 장비에도 끼우고. 맞아요.
They'll take a bite out of your enemies and have a chance to stun them.
Lord Zir's army is pushing across Sanctuary in an event called the Blood Harvest, which will always be active somewhere.
오, 이번에도 이제 맵 이벤트가 있네요.
Blood harvests are large-scale open-world events where vampires have overwhelmed an area in the hopes of enslaving the populace.
이거야 뭐 예전에
and siring more vampires.
지옥 물결이랑 좀 비슷한 느낌이네.
Stop sinister rituals and hunt for high-value enemies. Of course, they'll be rewarded for their efforts with a variety of new items, as well as the potent blood that fuels their vampiric powers.
엔드게임
In
보스.
Season 2, the Season of Blood, we're going to be adding 5 new returning endgame bosses for players to engage with once they get into World
5
3
개의
and 4.
월드
Players will be
보스.
able to earn the materials to summon these bosses by completing Whispers and by completing Helltide events.
We have some new enemies with powerful elemental attacks, giving players more reason to seek out and equip gear that enhances their resistances.
저거 뭐야? 처음 보는 건데?
Is that they offer a new way to farm uniques. So if there's a build-defining unique you're after, you'll be able to target farm specific bosses.
And our most challenging boss that we're going to be adding as part of Season 2 is also going to have an opportunity to drop extremely rare unique items that players have been hunting for.
드랍률은 별로 믿을 게 못
We're
돼.
also going to be adding some quality of life updates in Season 2. The first of which is we're going to be taking our gem system and making it so when gems drop for the player, you're actually collecting materials. They're going to be stored differently. They're not going to go into your inventory the same way. To help alleviate some of the concerns about inventory space that players have talked about before.
일단은
As long as you
보석은
finish the
따로.
prologue, you can now choose to skip the rest of the campaign and dive straight into creating a seasonal character. If you previously unlocked a
그래요?
mount
드루스킬
Diablo4,
새로 나온 게
it'll be
있다고요?
immediately available to use when you begin your journey through the Season of Blood. And we've made it so that renown rewards persist through seasons, so that the
잠깐 이거
reward is
영어
never
아래 이거
found.
너무
As we do with
헷갈리니까
every new
안
season,
보이게
we'll be adding a
바꿀게요.
new season journey and a new battle pass filled with new like vampiric themed cosmetics for them to collect, and we'll also be adding some new town portal
아이고.
cosmetics, both in the free and paid versions of our battle pass in Season 2. We'll also be making a number of other changes to the game, updating unique powers and items, reviewing legendary aspects for different classes. We're gonna be
그래요?
updating stats like our resistance
거위가
values
몸을
across the
돌면서
game, and a
타격했다.
number of other balance tweaks to make sure the game is as fun as possible for
그게 아예
players.
없었던
One of the
건데.
most exciting
뭔가
things
스킬에
for me
대한
about
베리에이션이
working
있나
on
보네.
Seasons is that Sanctuary is a big place and there's a lot
아니면은
going
그
on.
그냥
The
클래스
primeval
자체가
and
변화한 걸 수도
angelic
있잖아요.
forces are still very much in
시즌이랑
play,
상관없이
but I think
스킬
players are
자체 변화할
gonna enjoy
수도 있고.
seeing some more human scale dramas play out.
Diablo 4's second season will be our largest content update yet, but we're only getting started. Along with providing new quest lines, powers, and events each season, we'll continue to improve upon established systems by listening to player feedback to make your adventure in Sanctuary the best it can be.
We're incredibly excited for you to explore more corners
어,
of
그래도
Sanctuary.
뭔가 좀
Come join us
볼만한
in the
것들이
hunt.
있어 보이는데요?
Hey guys, how's it going? Long time no see. Welcome to another developer update live stream for Diablo 4. My name is Adam Fletcher. I'm the community director here for Diablo.
한번
I'm joined
제대로
by
볼게요.
our wonderful panel here. Some familiar faces, one new face. Feel free to introduce yourselves, you guys.
Thanks. I'm Joe Shelley, game director for Diablo 4.
I'm Antonio Watson, associate dungeon designer for Diablo 4.
던전
I'm Joe
디자이너네요.
Bipora. I'm the associate game director for Diablo 4's live service.
에이 너무
And I
너무
know,
꼰대
you
마인드다
guys actually
그건.
just saw an early look at Season 2.
잠깐 조셜리 이거 머리
Season
빠진
of
거
Blood,
아니에요?
with that video
막
before
탈모 온
the,
거 아니야, 이거?
the
큰일
actual
났네.
live stream kicked off. I do want to start off before
뭔가
we
횡한데?
kick off into this conversation.
Yeah.
There is going to be an
아니구나.
emergency
아니죠?
alert if you live in the US
Yeah.
at 11:20 on every single mobile device. So you may actually see us look at our phones or our watches, or you might hear it at home if you live in the US. So if you do hear a
유저수가
weird noise, just
99.9%
try throwing everyone's
감폭됐어.
phones out the room, but it still might happen. So it's a good time check though, which it lets me know that it's 11:20, which is really funny. But we do have a lot to. What was that?
20 Pacific time.
Yes, Pacific time, 11:20 Pacific. Sorry, we live in California, and so that is the time that we kind of base it. So based off your time zone, that is in 17 minutes, everyone. But I did want to give that heads up to everyone that if you hear a weird noise, or if you hear a weird noise at home, that's what it is. It's a test.
그게 아마 시간이 좀 지났을 때일 거로 알고 있어요.
But we do have a lot to talk about
당장
here. We do
99%는
wanna talk
아니었던
about,
건데.
season 2, of course, with Season of Blood. And go through all the gameplay mechanics, a little bit about the story, some of the new elements that are coming within this season, since we're now coming really close to Season of Blood, which is coming out on October 17th.
일단
And of course,
새로운 시즌
Season of the Malignant
오버뷰,
will also be
그다음에
ending on October
업데이트
17th,
내용
so it'll
같은
be
거
a
지금 이제
season
소개했던
transition,
것들 이렇게 할
for
것 같아요.
players between both seasons. And then we have a bunch of gameplay updates and quality of life updates to actually go through a ton. Like this, we expect this actual developer update live stream to go for about 2 hours. Because we do need to go through a ton of items with everyone.
와, 엄청 2시간 동안 하고 내용이 많긴 많나 본데?
Regarding Diablo4 towards the end, of course, we have our Q&A, which we'll be taking questions from Twitch chat, and then I know we actually have some questions from the forums.
잠시 아래 조금
We had started
잘린다.
a forum thread earlier this week, or late last week, regarding the developer update live stream. So I do know that we do want to kick it off with a little bit about Season 2. So, want to jump straight into it?
Let's dive in. So,
아, 이제
I know we
시작합니다.
just watched the video together where we talked about the Season of Blood. But in Season 2, the players are going to be confronting a new villain who's begun to surface throughout Sanctuary. A character named Lord Zir, this ancient vampire who's awoken recently and begun to gather all of these vampire cultists and other followers to his banner.
자, 이거 자막이 너무 정신없다. 잠시만요.
And achieve his
조금
own
더
aims
다듬어 드릴게요.
across the world. Now, while the player is progressing through the season, they're going to meet a new character named Eris, who I think we have. So you're going to meet Eris during the course of the season. Eris is a vampire hunter who's been trying to thwart Lord Zir for the past the past few weeks and months. Trying to hunt them down and try to eliminate them entirely. She's not having great luck sort of investigating the cults. She needs more help. The player is going to kind of enter the picture, but as part of the story, as the player is progressing through the season, mild spoiler here, but the player is going to contract vampirism. But due to the strange nature of the interaction with the Lilith's blood in the player character, they're going to be able to resist some of the effects of Lord Zir's influence, and instead gain all of those same powers without those detriments that are holding back other creatures, which can be really, really cool. But Eris is going to be fairly nervous about this, as she's only ever seen anyone who ends up actually contracting vampirism in this way end up following and serving Lord Zir in the end, regardless of their intentions overall, which we dig more into a little bit later on with enemies.
이 정도면 된 것 같아요.
But this represents this interesting new character that you'll be able to work with as you're kind of following the quest line of the season. So as you're going through these things, you'll be kind of going across all of the world. And I know, Antonio, we talked about we have talked before about how there are a number of dungeons we added with the season, right. And you kind of go into some of those part of the quest line.
So we have new dungeons that are part of the quest line. You can explore crypts.
이건 뭐 저번이랑 비슷한 거 아니야? 바브릭송하우스 심장 구할 때
going to confront Zir for the final battle.
새로운 던전들이
in addition to
있었는데
that, throughout the story, you will be revisiting some old places that are a bit different now that Zir's minions have come and taken over.
Yeah. So I've seen, I think we're seeing some of the dungeon stuff here.
Yep.
So the new dungeons in the quest line are pretty cool, particularly that finale that you called out, when you're going
뭐 새로운 게 던전 들어왔는데
track down Lord Zir with Eris, and you get a chance to really confront him in his lair. Those are some pretty epic moments that we don't want to actually show on stream just now.
Spoilers.
No spoilers for all that stuff just yet, but definitely a lot of things to look forward to. So the player's going to meet other characters as well as they're progressing through the season. There are other allies
도적이에요,
they kind of are going to meet. They're going to learn more about Lord Zir's
잠깐
plans
보여주다
overall,
마네.
what his real intentions are for Sanctuary as all of this is going on. So that's kind of the high level of what's happening in the world. Basically, Lord Zir and his army of vampire cultists are trying to take everything over. And that manifests in a bunch of different ways throughout the season.
이게 좀 중요할 것
The
같아요.
first thing I really want to talk about, or the next thing I want to
아까
talk
보니까
about,
새로운
are the
게
mechanics,
있더라고.
what you're going to be doing during the season to kind of gain power and such. So we talk about the fantasy of the season is that the player is basically becoming part vampire during the course of of the season of blood. And part of that comes down to making sure that we have cool vampire powers for
이거예요.
players to collect
뱀파이어
and
파워.
use. So what we see here is our vampire power user interface.
It's the way players are going to be able to
아, 저걸 활성화시키려면은 저 실 같은 게
and then
필요하고.
slot them into the circular UI above. So throughout the season, players are going to be able to acquire up to 22
여러 가지
powers
옵션 같은 게
as they
있네.
play.
상태 이상
And
관련한
these are
옵션들인데.
designed such that they are, unlike in season 1, where with Wellington Hearts we had a lot of very class-specific hearts baked in. We tried to make sure that the vampiric powers that players collect in season 2 are all class agnostic in nature, so that there's just more combinations.
자막이요? 너무 정신 없나요? 이게 실시간 자막이라서.
About their build. And yeah, so we have a few of these showing up right here. They come with a few different varieties in terms of the level of power of them, and each of them have a pack cost. Well, I will talk about more in just a moment. But you see these pack costs listed at the bottom.
휘발성
acquire a certain amount, certain
뭐
armor pieces that have
피해
these
드랍
packs
뭐 그런 게
associated with them in order to
떨어진다.
fuel these. Again, which I'll talk about a little more in a minute. Why don't we actually see if we take a look at maybe a couple of these powers themselves real fast. Yeah, so here's one. So players can have
저런 식으로 이제 저주 거네요.
the season where their evade allows them to turn to like a cloud of bats.
원저술사.
And it also makes them unstoppable.
와,
if you
이거 뭐야?
actually use it at the same time. And it's a way for the player to deliver a new effect that you can get throughout the season, which is called Vampiric Curse. So when you see that red effect above a lot of the creatures that the player is fighting, they're under the effects of Vampiric Curse. And if you kill them,
이상한 막
those
나가가지고
creatures, you get to steal their souls and bind them to you for a short period of time, up to 8 of them at a time.
그러니까 완전
And then
시즌
when
전용
you choose to
컨텐츠가
use the
생긴
defensive
거네.
ability on your character,
뱀파이어
you
힘을
unleash all
사용할
of
수
these souls.
있게끔.
As you can see here, these missiles, like these spirit missiles that fly out and hit lots of different creatures.
똑같은 화면 여러 번
as you're
반복하고
playing through.
있는데요.
So it kind of gives you this opportunity as you're going through packs and dungeons or elsewhere to kind of stack these up and use them to quickly burn down groups or elites that you might have to come across as you're playing. There's other cool things you'll get, like there's abilities for based on other companion skill uses and other things where you can we have this where the bats will come down and attack your enemies. And then many other powers. We talked about there was an overpower power we showed before. There's another one here that is more focused on channeling skills. Yeah, here it is. So when you start using channeling skills, people will drop this pool of blood around you, which gives you some extra protection and also enhances all the damage
소각을 쓰는데 저 피가 나를 보호해준대요. 저런 식으로 이제 소각 쓸 때 좀 생존성의 이득을 보겠는데 소각을 쓰냐? 소각을 누가 쓰지? 그다음에 여기 보시면은 지금 이제 활성화시킬 수 있는 여러 가지 실들이 있어요. 그래서 이런 것들을 장착시켜서 5개의 이제 뱀파이어 힘을 쓸 수 있는 것 같아요.
Yeah, absolutely. We think it's a really cool extra ability for players to play with, and being able to trigger it in different ways is very fun, we think.
재밌어 보이네.
So the next thing I want to talk about was actually how you're able to fuel your vampiric powers, those packs.
그래서 이제 예전 심장처럼
So if you look here in the inventory screen, you'll see that that all of the armor pieces that players are collecting are going to have a set number of packs associated with them. So you see here on the items themselves, they all have these small symbols off on the left-hand side. Yeah, or underneath them, or rather. And these represent the various packs that players can collect of the 3 different
저
types.
팩이라는
All
거.
the vampiric powers they can collect.
이제 요게 이제 아이템에 들어가서 여러 가지 점수 조합을 통해서 새로운 능력을 얻게 되는
And then you want to make sure that you can fuel
그러한
vampiric powers so you can have all 5 slots that you
시스템이고요.
really care about. And to do that, you need to make sure that you've got the right kinds of armor pieces available. The packs are only going to appear in armor. They don't appear on jewelry or on weapons, just on armor pieces. But and I should say every armor piece that drops during the course of the Season of Blood will always have packs.
얘네 갑옷에만 장착시킬 수 있대요. 이제 심장이 없으니까 장신구에는 보석 달아야 될 것 같고 이제 저 팩을 장신구에 달아서 사용을 해야 될 것 같은데요.
Packs from items, they allow them to eject new packs into items up to the pack limit, which is based upon the tier of content the player is playing in. So normal items have 3, and then sacred have 4, and then on
보석은
5,
보석대로 받고 뱀파이어 이거 팩은 따로 박네. 그죠? 보석은 보석대로 박혀 있고 팩은 팩대로 따로 박혀 있네. 그러니까 보석이랑 그 예전에 이발사 심장은 그냥 심장은 이제 보석 칸을 공유했었는데 얘는 완전 별개네요.
Killing blood seekers is a way to get these in a really good way. So there's lots of ways to kind of grab these. So that is that's kind of like the very high level. We'll talk more about the about like other things you'll be doing to gain those vampire powers. We get to some of the other sections of when we're talking about season 2. But there's also a lot of new enemies and things we're adding as part of season 2 as well.
뭐 이런 식으로 신규 시스템에 대해서 쭉 소개를 했습니다.
We actually added a bunch of new monsters. Lord Zir has a ton of different
그다음 이제
minions
새로운
that will be
몬스터
all throughout the
종류들
continent.
설명을 해주고
First,
있네요.
we have here our shadow vampires. These guys are not your typical flavor of vampires. They have a bunch of really cool new attacks. You'll see them
흡혈귀
all over
몬스터들.
the overworld. You'll see them in a
전체적으로
variety of
보라색으로 막
dungeons.
색깔이 입혀지어 있는
Paired with these guys, we also
몬스터들.
have our blood skeletons. These guys are kind of similar to our regular skeletons, but they also
얘는
come with
뭐야?
new attacks that allow you to have new counterplay and techniques in order to
근데 원래 이런 거
defeat
신경
them
많이
and get
쓰잖아요,
around
블리자드.
them. So be prepared for that.
Yeah, they have like a little bit more area denial baked in their
Right,
kits,
right.
right? As you're fighting some of the blood skeletons.
Yeah, you definitely want to watch where you step, like when you're engaging with these guys.
Yeah, and the vampires have like these cool things where they occasionally drop these like giant like heart-like lumps on the ground, and sometimes they'll be able to trigger shields off of these things. So you kind of like change your target
뭔가
priority
특별한
going
아이템들이
through,
떨어진다고
phase where you
하네요.
have to fight shadow vampires frequently to make sure that you're knocking these things out.
보호막을
and those shields are being
발동시킬 수
applied.
있다.
So yeah, there's some cool things to react to as part of this. But of course, that's not even the only creature, right? Because there's the man himself, right?
Yeah. So we also have Lord Zir. Here he is on his throne.
Brooding.
Yes. He is the mastermind. You will be facing off of with him throughout the season.
저게 이제
and during
군주?
the end of the season.
뭐
He
피해
is
군주
our
뭐 그런
big bad
건가?
evil guy. And coming along with him are his lieutenants, the Bloodseekers.
얘가
yeah,
예전에 바르샨 같은 존재인 것
Bloodseekers are
같아요.
really cool. So
바르샨.
Bloodseekers are a new idea in season 2, and the concept here is that like as the player has been is sort of protected a little bit by Lilith's blood in this way, that they're not able to be controlled by Lord Zir after they contract vampirism under his in his forces.
그다음에 이제 저
There are other
혈액으로
heroes who've gone
피에
out
뭐
there that
보호막
don't have that
같은
same
거 얻는
protection.
개념이
They've
있는 것
gone out there
같아요.
Trying to stop Lord Zir, trying to
지금
stop
캐릭터마다
the
그
vampire
보호막이
advances.
생겨 있을 때 이펙트
And they have
보여주는 것
fallen
같은데
victim to the blood cults and to Lord Zir's forces that way. And for those characters, now you've got vampiric sorceresses, you've got vampiric barbarians, you've got these blood seekers out there.
그래 이제
looking
모든
to kill
클래스들은 그
you.
뱀파이어 매직을
So as you're progressing through,
뱀파이어
you're dealing with enemy
능력들을
rogues, you're
사용할 수
dealing with
있다.
enemy druids and necromancers as you're playing, and dealing with their specific like spells and kits that we've created for the season for players to interact with. And honestly, finding bloodseekers is great because these guys are just blood bags. You know, they drop. They have a
이거
really,
스킨은
really good
아닌
chance
것
to drop
스킨이
potent
아니라
blood.
그
Potent
뱀파이어
blood is gonna
능력
be
중에
the
하나가
currency that you'll be
활성화됐을
collecting
때
through the season.
그
You'll be able to
이펙트로
use,
보이거든요.
basically upgrade powers that you already have, your vampiric powers, and unlock new ones that are available through the vampiric powers.
아니요.
online.
지금 당장
So
캐릭터들.
really, whenever you
아까
find
그
bloodseekers,
전에
you wanna take
보여줬던 게
them out because they
몬스터들이고
are- first, they're pretty fun to
지금은
fight,
캐릭터
they're
이펙트.
challenging, but they also have the ability to give you big upgrades for your vampiric powers, and they can jump you too, right? So like we make sure bloodseekers are. You'll find them in the world, particularly like in Blood Harvest. We'll talk about that again. I keep saying we'll talk about things in a minute, but there are lots of chances to get them to fight them in Blood Harvest. But you can also find them in dungeons and stuff too, right?
Yeah, so you can see them in the overworld, but they will also invade you in dungeons, so don't let them catch you slipping. They will be all over, finding you when you least expect it.
Yeah. So you just as you're passing through a dungeon, you will have a barbarian jump on you, whirlwind. They'll be all trying to slow you down, right, and causing problems. Yeah, very, very fun. So yeah, a lot of new enemy types.
그다음에 이제 피를 수확하는
So
그런
then,
개념이
I guess
있네요.
next thing is, I guess finally it's time to talk about Blood Harvest.
피 블러드
Yeah,
하베스트라고
okay.
해서
So I mentioned before that Lord Zir is taking over
이게 이제
Sanctuary, and Blood
그
Harvest is really the way
지옥
that we're
물결처럼
representing
이렇게
that.
영역으로
Now, starting right at
나타나는데
level 1, you'll find that
저기
Lord
몬스터
Zir's minions are taking
죽여가지고
over broad
이제 피를
swaths
모아야
of
되는
the five
그런
zones
이벤트 같아요.
in Sanctuary, and it's going to be filled with like his minions out there trying to like drain the blood from a variety of different people. There's that
emergency
There's
alert.
that emergency alert we talked about.
갑자기 왜 이래?
There we go.
Alright.
Now
Okay.
everyone gets to experience this together. And my phone as well.
So while these events are active, or rather these activities are active, you'll find Lord Zir's armies like marching across Sanctuary, taking people hostage, taking them prisoner, draining them of blood, and just causing general havoc in these areas where there's like new propping and there's new creatures.
저런 식으로 이제
there's lots of
인지를
things to
구하면은
do
뭐
as you're kind of going
보상이
through this.
떨어지는 것 같은데.
So what's the difference between Blood Harvest and Helltide?
Sure. That's a great question, Antonio. So obviously there's some similarities to the way that things are working in
지금
Helltide.
지옥 물결하고
The
뭐가
difference here
다르냐
is that, first of all, it's
물어봤는데
available right away at level 1, as you're progressing. But also, while these events are active, there's always a blood harvest active across Sanctuary at any given time.
아, 레벨
When a blood
1부터
harvest ends in
바로
one
얘를
location,
할 수
Sanctuary,
있다는데요.
a new one's going to pop up as Lord Zir's
지옥 물결은 악몽문 난이도부터 가능했는데.
And one of the cool things about Blood Harvest that's a little bit different than things like Helltide is that as you're kind of going through and playing, you're going to be earning a couple of new materials that you don't get elsewhere. And that is, you're going to be able to earn Bloodlures, which Bloodlures that you'll be able to use to basically like bait Bloodseekers to come to you, to be able to fight packs of them as time goes on. And you're also going to be earning these vampiric keys you can use to open like prisoners like cuffs, to be able to open vampiric caches and other things out in the overworld. And one of the cool things about this is that these materials that you're collecting, these currencies that you need to kind of like do some
뭐 뱀파이어 열쇠를 얻어서 인지를 구해라 뭐 그런 것도
they
있고.
stay with you from that point forward. So there's not limited progress in that way. Yeah, here's an example of a player going and using Bloodlures to summon a few of the Bloodseekers in combat. So yeah, and then whirlwinding accordingly. But so that's a couple differences. And the other is there's actually another new feature they're adding in Season 2, which we're calling right here, it's called Hunter's Acclaim. And as you do things in the Blood
이건
Harvest
뭐야?
area, as you're killing Bloodseekers, as you are freeing prisoners, as you're completing new Blood Harvest-themed Whispers that are also going to be active in those areas, you're going to be earning Hunter's Acclaim that will allow you to basically go and earn a number of other rewards. Some of the vampiric powers
여러 가지 뱀파이어 파워 같은 것도 보상으로 주고 아이템이나 메간 아이템 같은 걸 주는 그런 NPC가 하나 생겼네요.
So there's a bunch of different stuff in here for players to do.
아마 첫 번째는 일단은 그 시즌 업데이트 소개하고 이 다음에 이제 업데이트 또 소개한다고 했거든요. 그때 한번 지켜봐야 될 것 같아요.
But you'll also see higher level Blood Harvest as you get into like World Tiers 3 and 4.
Awesome. So we got a lot of information here about Season 2, but Season 2 also has some other components to it that actually are beyond even just like seasonal stuff. And I know people may have seen in the video the discussion that we quickly brought up like before the stream actually started, which was about the new bosses that are being added in. Can you guys kind of walk through like what the new endgame boss system is going to be for players that do want to kind of experience that?
Yeah, absolutely.
우버 유니크는 안 줄 것 같아요. 우버 유니크가 만약에 주어지면 너무 희소성이 바닥을 치지 않을까요?
But there's actually, I think I have a handy dandy chart, a very designery chart to help players understand kind of what we're talking about here.
이거 되게 이 사람들의 개념을 나타낸 그런 그림 같아요.
The content progression of Diablo4, the way the players are
그러니까
playing.
1에서 50 정도는 이 정도까지 우리는 생각을 하고 있다.
Yeah, in pre-season and season 1.
아, 확정적으로 준다?
So yeah, our 1 to 50 experience, obviously you're leveling up initially. Maybe you're going through the campaign.
50에서 70은 악몽 난이도 가고 악몽 던전 가고 한 레벨 70까지는 악몽 던전 한 20티어 그 정도로 생각하고 있고 그다음 헬타이드 이것도 있고
And then eventually get into World Tier 4. Now you're getting your ancestral items, and you continue.
그다음 이제 21에서 100 월드 티어 고액 난이도는 그대로 있고 그다음에 그 릴리트 죽이는 거 뭐 이 정도 해놨네요. 저거 가려진 건 뭐지?
Not even thinking about season 1 necessarily, but that's like what the end game sort of looks like. It's a lot of nightmare dungeons, a lot of Helltide.
속삭임 악마
And we've heard a lot of feedback from players, and also from our experiences playing the game. That players are looking for more milestones, they're looking for more goals, they're looking for more like things to farm, ways to make their characters powerful.
뭐 이거는 기존 거랑 달라진 게 없어.
Some big changes we're making as part of the Season of Blood, and we can show that here.
아,
So now,
예전
when the
게
player gets into World Tier 3,
바뀌었네
there's
이렇게.
2 new bosses for them, or 1 returning boss.
바르샨이 여기 있고 여러 가지 이번 시즌에 엔드게임 컨텐츠가 추가됐다 뭐 그렇게 이해해도 되겠는데요.
for players to be able to hunt down in order to kill, to get various craft materials they can use to summon other bosses later.
뭔가 악몽 던전
Also,
상위가
specifically to get,
들어왔다.
uniques that only
그
drop from
얼음 안에
So every one of the
야수 뭐
bosses
그런 게
that you add as part
생겼는데.
of the Season of Blood is going to have their own distinct loot list associated
그
with it,
다음에
with unique
그
items, and there are some cosmetic
지옥
rewards
물결의
as well,
상위
which we'll talk
콘텐츠도
about
하나
in a little
생긴
bit.
것 같고요.
So that's a reason why you're going to want to go hunt.
그다음
each of these
두리엘.
Now on this board here, you
두리엘이
can see
들어와요?
I kind of like connect the dots in terms of where these things come from.
듀리엘인데?
So if you want to go hunt Varshan,
엔드
you
게임으로
need to go complete
듀리엘이
whispers.
이번에 들어오나
There's
봐요.
chances for you to find like malignant creatures as you're completing whispers in the overworld. They have rare chances to occur, and you'll also be able to get these new malignant body parts you need from completing whispers.
그러니까 예전에는 바르샨
So when you
사냥하기
get your
위해서
passion
악의
board
굴로
in the,
들어갔었는데
whisper run, there's a chance for you to have
이제
the
바르샨을
to summon
죽이기
Varshan
위해서는
reconstituted.
그 속삭임의
Because in
나무
Season of
클리어하고
Blood, there are
그런
new
식으로
layers
조금
that have been
바뀌었네.
added around the world. And the lair for Varshan is in a kind of a corrupted hollow.
그러게요.
malignant hollow
바르샨이
beneath
원래
the
심장 주는
So
앤데
right there, there's an
이번에
entrance down
그대로
in where
두는
you'll
건가?
fight
아닐
some
텐데요,
awesome
그죠?
malignant creatures. No malignant hearts dropping, but malignant creatures certainly down there. And at the end of that small dungeon, you'll be able to go
이번에
and basically
듀리엘이
throw these materials into this new brazier.
원래
that you
저번
added
시즌
to be
같은
able to
경우에
summon
이제
Varshan back
릴리트가
and fight him
최종
through the special
보스였는데
loot that he has.
여기
Now
릴리트
that one of
있고
the new creatures that we're adding is this, the
그다음에
Galvanic
이제
Saint.
듀리엘이
We'll
새로운
show off some of
보스로
the new
나오는 것
arcs
같아요.
from these characters in just a moment. But this is a new, like very lightning-themed boss that players will be able to go and engage with as they complete Helltide content. They will learn Infernal Steel from opening various caches.
글쎄요.
and use
일단은
this as a way,
심장에
part of a
대한
new
그
layer
언급은
to
하나도
go and summon
없었는데
Galvanic Saint
이번에
and
또
deal with
편입이
fighting
될지는
attacks.
모르겠네.
And that's actually something that might be worth pointing out. While we're not talking about the elemental resistance changes until next week when Adam comes back with Charles and they talk about all the class changes and itemization updates that are happening as part of the season. It's worth pointing out that several of the bosses in this chain have they are very elementally themed in terms of their attacks. So you should be looking for like lightning resist explicitly if you're trying to farm Gridwire, and you'll be looking for cold resist to find it from the Beast of Ice later. So we'll talk about that in just a moment.
그러니까 원소저항에 대해서 잠깐 얘기했는데 좀 많이 신경 써야 되는 것 같아요. 저항에 대해서. 예전에 신경 아예 1도 안 썼는데 저항에 대해서 많이 중요성을 높인 것 같은 느낌이군요.
In World Tier 4, where he drops ancestral versions of those same unique items, and the Galvanic Saint is also available.
바르샨이 심장을 드랍한 게 아니라 유니크 아이템 드랍하네.
So those are still there. Additionally, when you kill Varshan and when you kill the Galvanic Saint in World Tier 4,
그러니까 일단 심장은 없어진 게 맞는 것 같고.
In order to summon Duriel, King of Maggots, who is a new level 100 boss.
그다음에 듀리엘 소환하기 위한 아이템을 따로 드랍을 하나 봐요.
As well as a low chance to drop uber unique items.
So what does that mean, like in terms when you say uber?
이게
uniques, a lot of
확정
people go
드랍은
like,
아니고
oh,
확률
low chance, there's
드랍이에요.
already a low chance. So what does that mean for a player for uber uniques now with this new system?
That's a great question. You will absolutely know people that have uber uniques after this goes live, and there's a way for you to farm them specifically from going after Duriel, right? It is still not every time you kill Duriel, you're gonna get an uber unique item. They are still very rare relative to other item types. But it's not like it was in the past. Like you're gonna see people in your clan that have uber uniques. You're gonna know people that have.
일단 엄청 확률이 낮은 건 똑같은데 아무튼 얻을 수 있는 새로운 방법이다 라고 얘기를 하고 있는 것 같아요.
Now, there are the two other bosses that I didn't talk about too much. The first is the Beast in Ice.
2주 남았죠,
So the
2주.
Beast in Ice is a new boss that you can go and summon after you start completing Nightmare Dungeons higher than Tier 30. So Tier 31 plus Nightmare Dungeons, 85-ish monsters and so on from there. As you fight and complete these Nightmare Dungeons, there's chances for the components that you need to drop at the end of the Nightmare Dungeon. You'll be able to use to make a new special Nightmare Dungeon key that explicitly brings you to
특별한 악몽 던전이 새로 들어온 거구나. 특별한 악몽 던전.
And fight them in combat to get their special loot. And they've got some really potent items as well. And then lastly, for
이것저것 많이 할 게 생기긴 했네.
is we talked about Lord Zir already. While you will be able to confront like a story version of Lord Zir as you go through the quest line in World Tiers 1 and 2, there is a much more difficult, challenging version of Lord Zir that you'll fight in World Tier 4. Once you're ready.
그다음 이제 지르경
지르경
죽이는 거.
This way, as you kill world bosses in season 4 and as you kill in season 2 rather, season 4, as you kill world bosses. Yeah, I know, I really am. as you kill world bosses in World Tier 4, and as you complete Legion events in World Tier 4. You'll be able to gather these materials forward and bring them to go and summon Lord
뭐
Zero.
이것저것 할 게 좀
So,
생기긴
couple extra
했는데
things to kind of call out here. Actually, why don't we show? I think we have video of these new bosses.
뭐야? 아
Yeah,
새로운
okay.
보스다.
You see Grigwar.
지르경이네요.
summoning for the first
지르경.
time. Very excited for players to go and do that fight.
아닌가? 얘가 이제
Beast
야수.
of Ice in his new lair. And of course, Duriel.
두리엘이구나,
Maggots.
두리엘.
Super gross. Yeah, it's super gross. Very fun. So yeah,
이렇게
these
세 개의
three,
보스.
we obviously still have Lord Zir. We just don't want to
아, 어서
to show
오세요.
off the boss fight just yet, but
지르경,
you know, you get a chance to go and obviously
그다음에
fight a version of him in the
그
quest line and a
얼음
version of
속의
him
야수,
later.
두리엘 이렇게 세
But one
마리
other thing worth calling
추가된다고
out as part
하네요.
of this, the materials that players are going to be collecting to use to summon forth these bosses. There's a couple advantages. First, if you've got friends, you can try to farm these components up together and use that as a way to more quickly access these fights and get more chances and opportunities to get some loot off these bosses that you're looking for. But you can also trade these materials between players as well. So if you've got half the things you might need to summon Varshan, but you don't have the other half, you can go on trade chat and try to find the remaining components. You know, spend the gold necessary to like maybe exchange for those things, and then go more quickly summon the bosses that you need. And also, as you collect these materials, you realize you
아,
may have
그
over
거래
time
되나
the
본데?
materials you
열쇠,
need to summon,
그러니까
and you've
우버
got
디아
items you're
열쇠
looking
같은
for early
느낌인데?
enough. Now you have a chance to like go and take those and maybe sell
그래가지고
those off,
보스
and
소환해서
make a type of profit
죽여라.
for yourself, so you can have an easy time
파밍에
trading items
파밍에
and
필요한
things.
것들
Exactly. Make friends.
구해서
Yeah,
죽여라
make
그런
friends
거네.
for sure. Yeah.
And you said this before, but all 5 of these bosses have unique loot tables
Yes.
that have specific uniques on them that you can target.
That's right. So if you're looking for a particular unique item in the game, and we've added a lot of unique items in Season 2 as well that also can all appear on these bosses. You know, you
그래서
will be able to have,
어떤
you will know the
보스들은
sorts of
특별한
bosses
유니크
that are
아이템을
required for those
떨구고요.
items. Right. So if you're
그런
looking
건
for
아마
something,
아직
there's
공개는
spots
안
where you drop
됐겠죠.
it, you know what you need to go target farm. and
그다음에
try to get those
지금
items.
보여주는 거 이제 메간
And what
아이템,
we're seeing here is
코스튬
just, like, some
아이템들
of
보여주고
the,
있는데
kind of like almost exclusive, like you know, items that you can find off of.
뭐 이런
some
것도
of these
파밍하시는
bosses
분들은 하시니까.
within the 5 of them on their drop tables. But then, like Joe and Joe have mentioned, you can find unique items off of them. And Duriel has the opportunity of dropping Uber uniques.
두리엘이
Yes, you
우버
will
유니크를
find people
떨군다.
and know people that and may find yourself an actual Uber uniques with this
두리엘을 엄청 많이
season
죽여야
for,
되겠구만.
right, and going forward, because again, this is in Eternal Realm and this is in every season going forward, and we'll be adding more to it.
That's right.
And I know a lot of people have been asking about like unique items and hey, are there going to be like any future changes for unique items? And I just want to note, like, because we had been talking about the stream on October 10th, where that stream where we just have a lot to talk about today, so we're actually splitting up the streams. But on October 10th, we're talking more about class balance changes. We're also talking about unique
10월
item
11일,
updates.
10월 10일 다음
Nearly
주에는
every unique
지금
item
밸런스 변경이랑
is
그런
getting some
것도
sort of
얘기할
update
예정이라
in Diablo 4, and we're actually going to be
그때
talking more
유니크
about
아이템에
that
대해서도
on
좀
the 10th.
변경
So,
사항들이 있나
these
봐요.
unique items are obviously going to be, you know, big things to actually kind of hunt for players when they are fighting these specific bosses. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about today. We'll have more to talk about on the 10th, and of course we're also going to be talking about, you know, resistances more on the 10th with Adam Jackson.
Yep.
And some of the damage bucket changes. Like I know we have like crit, vulnerable, and overpower damage that's also getting kind of adjusted and tuned, kind of what we mentioned in prior
일단
streams.
다음
So
주가
that will
굉장히
all be
중요한
happening
또
on the
내용들이
10th.
공개될 예정이네요.
But we got to hear a little bit about the bosses here. Now we do want to talk about some of the gameplay updates and some changes that are coming to Diablo 4, which is a huge list that we actually do have. So it's going to take us be prepared. We got a lot of slides and a lot to discuss here, but we do want to kind of jump right into them so we can kind of get through
자,
all of
그다음에
them for
이제
sure. And a lot of this, and
저
I do
이거
want to like
잠깐
preface, a lot
좀
of this is
짧게
based
줄일게요.
off of things we've heard within the community feedback, and also just changes that we most definitely wanted to make to the game to make a better experience for players, especially as we were going through preseason and season 1. So, Joe, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, and so we can see I'm going to talk about Scroll of Escape here. I just wanted to mention we're seeing some of the images of some of the mount and some of those item art.
Oh yeah.
Those are also new cosmetics that are exclusive to you can get from farming.
That's
farming
correct. Yes, these are
those bosses.
exclusively dropped from
Yeah.
the various bosses that we're
In
talking
game,
about
yeah.
in Season 2.
Yeah.
Yep. On Eternal and Seasonal.
And these, when we say eternal and seasonal, we mean that these are going to persist.
Yes.
Persist beyond Season 2.
That's correct. Yeah, these bosses aren't going to go away at the end of the season. We want to add more things for players to do once they get into these World Tier 3 and 4 content tiers. There's more updates we want to make to existing content types. We'll talk about some of those things today.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more planned. This is sort of like the first step in like creating more interesting activities for players as they get into World Tier 4.
일단
especially
업데이트
as they think about
내용인데
100
탈출
especially.
스크롤.
Yeah, there's more fun things for players to do and engage in.
More for an endgame.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Scrolls of Escape. It's been a little while coming, but Scrolls of Escape will now be consumed automatically if you disconnect while you're in
만약에
combat.
전투 중에 끊겼을
Because
때
this is a consumable item. There's
하드코어
we feel pretty
플레이어는
good about the case where people are
소모가
disconnecting
된다고.
on purpose. You're still going to consume that item. So
원래 지금이 이런가?
we feel pretty good about
하드코어 할
this change,
때
and,
스크롤 있으면
you know, it all
알아서
sucks, to die to
사용이 되나요?
Yes.
in hardcore.
Never fun.
Incenses, which are the party-wide version of elixirs, of course, will now grant a bonus to experience, and they will persist through death.
경험치
Be more
보너스.
useful. Now, this is a big one. We have a bunch of different experience changes that we're going
경험치
to go
보너스가
over
더
here.
늘어난다.
You're going to see a
뭐
few
그런 것도
different
있고.
references to different experience changes. One of the things, and if you're playing Season 1, you'll notice that we did make some adjustments to experience in Season 1 as well. That's sort of, all this is sort of coming together with some changes to how experience is calculated.
그러니까
in
월드
terms of which
티어에
things are
따라서
so,
경험치
the way this
보너스가
will work
더
is in
들어간다.
general, you've got different kinds of experience bonuses. So you've got maybe a bonus from incenses that we just added, for example. You've got other experience
이게
bonuses maybe
향이구나,
from
향.
seasonal
인센스가
blessings.
향이구나.
These are going to add together in a bucket.
향, 근데
and
향은
then
별로
be
쓰는 사람이
multiplicative
없잖아.
with your world tier bonus. This means that these experience bonuses will be much more impactful in Season 2
뭐
than
아무튼
they were in
성장은
Season
좀
1.
빨라질
In
것
fact,
같네요.
Cumulatively, as I said, there are a number of different experience bonuses here. And cumulatively,
빨리빨리 키울 수 있지
your
않을까.
time, if compared to Season 1, your time to get to level 100 is going to be 40% faster.
Yep. about 40% faster.
100레벨에 도달한 시간이
than it was in Season
40%는
1.
달라질
Season
거다.
2. This is, you know,
라고 얘기를 하네요.
Why would we do that?
well, you know, we found that Season 2 is really about, we just talked about all of the boss changes that add more content to do as you're leveling up. We also want players to be able to get to level 100. It's a goal that many players set for themselves.
그러니까
and
많은
it should be an
사람들이
achievable goal.
100레벨에
And so in
도달하는
Season
것을
1,
목표로 하고 있다.
we saw that there were some players who were getting frustrated. You maybe get to level 75, and you're like, I want there to be more things to do, and this is like just feels
열심히
like
하는
it kind of slows
사람들은
down.
더
And we
빨리
really
도달하긴
wanted to
하겠네.
smooth that over and make the process of reaching that goal and getting to the end of the season journey feel like an achievable goal for all our players.
야그치
who
한파가
invest
뭐예요?
time
저
in the
처음
season.
들어보는데.
And of course, along the way, you're going to be having a lot more cool stuff to do with all of the boss ladder stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, these good changes. Very excited about this.
So, as I said, we'll talk more about other changes to experience as we go through this.
10개의 그 잠겨있지 않은 웨이포인트가 추가된다. 웨이포인트 추가된대요. 각각의 그 영역마다 2개씩.
More waypoints that start unlocked compared to previous seasons. That means you don't have to do quite as much running to unlock waypoints as you're going. This isn't every single waypoint, but it's key strategic waypoints that are related to places that you want to go. And
나쁘지 않네 뭐.
Yeah, make it a little bit easier to get around to like whispers that are in rotation as you're like leveling up your character initially. Yeah.
Yeah, and there are some other changes. There's kind of a suite of changes. You know, I was just talking about a number of changes to experience. There's also a suite of changes to sort of town efficiency, and this is the first one we're going to talk about some more in a little bit.
명망 보상이
I know this is one that's close to Joe's heart in particular. Renown rewards will now persist between seasons. So what this means is that when you create a new character in a season,
명망 보상이
you can still
새로운
earn renown, you can still
캐릭터도
do
유지가
side quests,
된다.
if that's something that you enjoy doing.
그러니까 명망작을 안
you
해도
can go and
된다라는
do,
얘기가 되겠네요. 한 번 하면.
Strongholds, you can do all of those
아니
content
시즌
types,
간이잖아.
but all of
저번
the
시즌에
rewards
했어도
that are
새로운
associated with
캐릭터
renown
명망작 안 해도
persist.
된다.
So,
그 소리
if you
같은데.
and you don't have to you're not going to have to log in on a different character or anything. Like any reward that you've claimed, if you claimed it in
명방작을 안
pre-season,
해도 될
on
것 같다.
Eternal, in season 1, on any character, you're going to have that reward automatically when you create your new character in season 2, and this applies to all of those obols. It applies to skill points.
그러게요. 완전히 이제 놓아줬네.
It's just nice to be able to start a new character and not feel like you have to go do every single side quest over again to get all of the stuff.
이제 사이드 퀘스트 안 해도 된다.
This is something it's a really good point, Antonio, because when we are talking about these general improvements, what these came from is a lot like us, the dev team, playing the game, and I think Joe mentioned this before, but it's really important, playing the game and then reading feedback from players, feedback on social, feedback from videos, everything, and really looking at like what are players asking for, where are there places where we can make the game more fun, because
명방작은 안 해도
back
된다.
in season 1, like our goal is to continue making the game more fun for players, right? And so this is really sort of the result of that. And,
뭐 나쁘지 않아요.
I think making sure that players have more
다 사소한
log
변화들인데.
into their seasonal character right away, and not
아, 알겠습니다.
the suppressive
정리를 제가 할지 모르겠는데
what they were now in order to
일단은
optimally for the season.
노력해 볼게요.
I think it's gonna be really, really healthy and good for the experience. I'm really excited for players to be able to
네,
just
편히
really carry these
주무시고요.
things over with their characters. Now, you're not going to need to log in like you did last time when we made changes in the past. Now, like after you've claimed these rewards on a previous character, you're just going to have them on the future characters.
That's right, yeah. And I was going to say the.
I disrupted your flow.
No, it's all right.
Train of thought
Let's go to the next. Let's go to the next bullet. Overworld monsters. Yes. So this relates to another change. We're going to talk about it a little bit. But overworld monsters will now match your player level.
몬스터
in World Tiers 3 and 4.
세계에 있는 몬스터들이 더 이상 플레이어의 레벨을 안 따라간다.
And we ran into some challenges with
75까지만 올라간다. 그러니까 월티어 3에서는 악몽 난이도에서는 55까지만 몬스터 레벨이 올라가고 그 다음에 고행 난이도에서는 75까지만 올라간다 라고 하네요.
These monsters on par with your level. And this is based on reviewing season 1.
더 높은
It's coupled with some
그
other
몬스터들을
changes
만나려면 악몽 던전을 가야 되는 상황이 됐네요.
make sure that it does feel meaningful and powerful, and you're not just feeling like, oh, I'm just sort of playing catch up.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more later on.
All right. And of course,
캐릭터
at the end
슬롯이
of
추가됐답니다.
your season 1 character is going to migrate to the Eternal Realm, and so we've added 2 additional character slots. To make sure that
2개의 캐릭터 슬롯이 추가됐다.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to note is like when characters are migrating from season 1 to Eternal Realm, we actually have all that information that's going to be posted immediately after this live stream. We have a huge blog that will be essentially talking about everything related to season 2, and so all the details
뭔가
about how
임팩트
that
있는
actually
건 없는데?
happens, how that works will be in that blog. It works very similar to like if you play Diablo 2 Resurrected, you'll know exactly how that works, and it's very similar to that. But all that information will be on a blog afterwards.
Yeah, we'll go into detail about what happens with your items and how they carry over.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of great info there.
Okay, so next I think we have towns. Yeah, towns and vendors. Yeah. So a couple things we've changed here to make towns a little more efficient, and that's like really a focus of ours as we kind of move forward. First up,
제가 오컬리스트가 뭘 얘기하는 거지?
So when you go back and you turn in your whispers, there are additional functions you can perform right there without having to like fly off to Kyokushat or anywhere else to go do other work. So that's nice for the loop. We've gone through. We've added stashes much more liberally throughout Sanctuary. This is the first of those changes. So any small town with a waypoint attached to it is going to have a stash near it as well now. So just more opportunities to drop
이제 작은 마을에 있는 그 웨이포인트에서도 보관함을 갈 수 있게 했고 추가 그 뭐죠? 창고.
And then, additionally, we've added stashes to like near a lot of different vendors in capital cities.
이게 창고가 추가된다는 소리가 아닌 것 같은데.
We'll get to that in just a second, I think. But yeah, we've added more stashes all over the place. And then, of course, purveyors of curiosities. These lovable rogues, really tucked themselves away in a distant corner of a lot of the capital cities throughout Sanctuary. We've we're bringing them closer to the waypoints. We're reacclimating them to society, reintroducing them to the world, and just making sure that they're a lot easier to reach. As you can see here, for Kyovashad, like the Purvey of Curiosity is now like right in the tavern. So it's just a lot easier to go and spend your obols as you're accruing them.
아,
It's harder for you to forget.
이거 바꿨네.
You'll get more gear as you are
걔 누구죠?
playing.
걔네들.
has become more social.
Yeah, become more willing to.
그러네요. 여기 보면은 보관하면 전부 다 웨이포인트 근처로 왔고, 왜냐면 이게 동선이 너무 길었어가지고. 그 다음에 이제 일부 쟤네들 뭐라고 하더라? 그 은화 쓰는 애들. 걔네들을 가까이 해줬네.
Obviously, like if they're going to be at the blacksmith or at the purveyor or at the occultist or anything, this is now going to just help make that a little bit more efficient. Especially if they're going between different areas or different towns, they
약간
find stashes
뭐 편의성
everywhere.
개선이랄까?
A lot of it was, thanks to the feedback from players on that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So I think that's about it for towns and vendors. There's plenty more stuff to talk about.
Yes.
Want to talk about mounts?
Yes, we should talk about mounts. This was something that we talked about before. This is something that Mr. Joe Shelley had posted on the platform known as X, formerly known as Twitter.
Did he make a post on
He made
X?
a post, not a tweet.
Not a tweet. That's
a post.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of people ask about this ever since that post, and we mentioned that it'd be
마운트
something that's coming
탈
in
것.
season 2. So do you want to go through all our changes coming from mounts?
Yeah, let's take a look at them. The first off, there are a number of changes to mounts, but
뭐 좀 빠르게 움직일 수 있다. 그런 얘기를
and we
하는데.
feel is the most significant.
뭐
here is
자동적으로
just that they're gonna
점프를
get stuck
한다.
less, right? So when you're trying to turn your mount like in a tight corner, or you're trying to navigate through a narrow space, the mount is
탈 것 개선을 해준다
much
보네요.
less frequently
이번에.
come to a dead stop or slow down dramatically. And part of that as well is mounts can jump over regular jump traversals just like your player, but we're a little bit finicky about it.
They were very finicky.
I think some people didn't. In practice, they didn't always. They were a little bit too scared of jumping over traversals. So we fixed that. It's much more smooth now. So a lot less dismounting as you're traveling.
그냥 말 타고 다니는데 편하게 될 것 같아요.
And we also increased the base movement
기본
speed of
탈
the
것의
mouse,
이동
which
속도를
means that traffic
14% 올렸다.
town, for example, will be faster. We didn't
근데 이제
increase the
최고
top
스피드는
speed as
그대로
the boost,
남겼어요.
So the maximum boost speed is still the same, but your base movement speed unboosted is going to be.
마우스랑
40%
키보드를 사용할 때의
we also
그
made a
최고
change,
스피드까지
and this
가는
is one
데가
that,
개선이 됐다.
that players point out. We have sort of a cool. I think
스피드
it's
부스트
like a very
썼을
cool,
때
like,
속도가
system
50%
for
증가했다.
allowing the mount to have analog control with the mouse and keyboard. But the consequence of this is that it was sort of finicky. You really had to
바리케이트도
have the
부셔버릴
mouse
수
cursor
있대요.
at the edge of the screen to
Yeah.
get full speed, and if you had a little bit farther away, you kind of felt like, well, am I actually at full speed? Like, so you really felt like it has to be at the edge of the screen at all times, because of course, when you're riding through the world, you want to be going as fast as you can, right?
지속 시간이군요. 그러네.
So we made a
듀레이션이라고
change
써있구나.
here. We didn't
감사합니다.
remove. Some players have suggested like, just make it binary. I should be at full speed all the time. But we made a change that makes it. The cursor is much more generous about allowing you to be at full speed. It's about half or so of the screen. Beyond that, it'll be at full speed. And so you really have to have the cursor close to your
뭐
mouth.
그렇게 키보드 마우스 마우스를 멀리 안 떨어뜨려도 최고 속도에 다다를 수 있게 바꾼 것 같고 그 최고 속도 유지되는 부스트 지속 시간도 늘렸고 그 부스트 썼을 때의 바리케이드도 부셔버릴 수 있다. 그런 내용들이네요.
Your path at the very edge of the screen.
어서 오세요.
It's just generally not how people play and when they're moving in the game.
Yeah.
It's usually a bit closer to their character when they choose their movement options with the mouse. So yeah.
되게 근데 다 짜잘한 변경 사항들인 것 같은데.
The faster mount and moving the important things closer to the waypoint. That is the 40%.
근데 뭐 나쁘게 변하는 건 없어요. 나쁘게 변하는 건 없고.
That is 41%. Those experience changes are massive. So.
This is just additive to it. So,
but I think it's a great point because you know, as Adam was saying as well, like town efficiency is also something that players care
아니 뭐
about.
그렇게 큰 건 없어요. 그 새 시즌에 추가되는 거 그런 거 조금 봤고 그 다음에 듀리엘 나오는 거 월드보스에서 우버 유니크 나오는데 듀리엘 잡으면 뭐 나온다고 그런 얘기들이 있었어요.
With the increased duration, you're going to be able to be boosted a lot more of the time.
Yeah, way more spur up time.
Yeah, quite. It's close to 100%. I think it's pretty. It's pretty.
뭐 그렇게 큰 건 없네요.
And of course, this is great because
지금 보여준다.
those pesky barricades
오.
that would previously cause your mount to stop can be
보이세요?
so you don't
바리케이드
need to
부시는
dismount,
거.
unless you want to.
Right. Look at this.
아 속이 다 시원하네 진짜. 아
The quality of the
뭔가 뻥 뚫리는 느낌이네. 저것만 보고 있어도.
Oh, look at this.
We got some production value.
아 그래.
So you can see the player boosting through the barricade there. You also see the player using
진작에
the dismount skill,
저랬어야지.
and we have some changes related to that as well. So some cooldown changes.
Oh yeah, these are really big.
So I, as Adam mentioned, I posted about this on social
와
media.
쿨타임도 많이
And,
줄였는데.
one of the things that we were experimenting with is having the mount cooldown reset after you take a traversal, because of course
저쪽
you
매뉴얼
get off your
포스트
mount, you take a
디스마운트가
traversal, and then there's like a cooldown before you can mount again. It just feels sort of arbitrary, like why that's like slowing down the game for no reason, right? So we tested that in practice.
각각 뭘 뜻하는 건지 모르겠네. 영어 단어를 매칭이 안 돼가지고.
Just reducing the base cooldown of the mount across the board.
아 이거 그거다. 만약에 내가 수동으로 내렸으면은 5초 이후에 원래는 10초였는데 5초면 이제 다시 탈 수 있는 거고. 그 다음에 강제적으로 내가 공격받아서 디스마운트 됐을 때 15초 그거구나. 아 그죠. 그거 줄여줬다는 얘기네.
This is actually the cool up on it. When you jump onto your mount, there's a few seconds before.
뭐 이것도 그냥 짜잘한 짜잘이.
10 seconds felt way too long, so we reduced it to 3.
Yeah, it's much more fun to like just get on your mount, and if you see a pack of creatures that you need for a quest or for a whisper or anything else, be able to just disengage right into them, you know, and start the fight right away, as opposed to having to like wait. You just end up not using it.
I would like make circles around attacks, you know,
if you have like 2 seconds left or something.
So wait, hold on, monsters. I'm gonna do this cool ability.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Give me a little bit.
Just wait, it's happening. I promise. Yeah. So.
Yeah, very cinematic, but not as fun.
Awesome. So I know now. Oh,
God.
Wow. Okay, we have production behind the scenes, by the way, guys.
Yeah, honestly,
they're just smiling back there as they make these like crazy swipes between transitions. But we are now going to talk about some changes coming for Nightmare Dungeons.
Oh yes.
잠깐.
So
악몽 던전 변경 사항들이래요.
Kind of take us through all our changes here.
Finally, this is what I'm here for.
This is the moment.
This is what I work on. So
이제 악몽 던전에 던전 안쪽으로 텔레포팅이 된다. 원래 입구에 됐었잖아요. 자, 이것도 되게 어이없었는데 드디어 고쳐지네.
Will take the players directly inside the dungeon instead of to the dungeon entrance. This will cut down on having the double load screens when you just want to go and play.
이거 되게 어이없었는데.
More like.
Okay, and it's funny enough. What is our map?
그 다음에 그 던전 이벤트 몬스터의 밀도가 증가했대요.
People are claiming we're doing this in PowerPoint. It's actually through Remix. So credit to them. We could have gotten the easy way.
아, 그 다음에 그 이벤트 몬스터, 이벤트 NPC들 애들이
Sorry for interrupting. There you go.
Moving on.
한 번에 안 죽는다라는 소린가?
So our dungeon events have
있잖아요.
more monster density now.
제발 우리 좀 도와주시오 하는
and
애들.
also, more importantly, in higher world tiers, your NPCs will no longer get one shot, so they will not be completely useless, or the events won't be hopeless when you're trying to defend someone from
그런 애들 너무 빨리 죽어버렸는데
Yeah, in general, I think this is going to be
이제 잘 살아남는 것 같아.
perceived efficiency of dungeon events across the board.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Pretty like, you know, my friends and I are like, oh, okay, well, you know, your friends and you are going to be okay. Like, I'm just going to leave.
Yeah, we're looking at dungeon events a lot just between the seasons and player feedback to make sure that they're fun to play and
저기,
people want to engage with them.
제발 좀
And this is kind of one of
도와주시오.
those things that we saw. We're like, yeah, we could do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
어차피 죽는데 살리지도 않았어.
Yeah, so next we have traps. In our dungeons, the overall readability has been improved, and the crowd control on the player.
저건
has
별로
been
의미 없어
reduced.
보이는데.
Look at that slow motion.
트랩이 뭐 있으면 많이 죽는 것도 아니고.
So it will be easier to see these, and
그다음에
more
CC가 많이
importantly,
줄었다.
when you do get hit by them, you are not CC'd long enough to where
저거보다도
you will just instantly die all the time.
Yeah, and I want to.
그 바닥에 장판 터지는 거 그런 거 좀 줄였어야 됐는데.
We're not just
아,
talking about
보리꼬리님 어서
CC
오세요.
on the traps, right?
Right. We're talking about just CC across the board from monsters. Just in general, like your CC time will be decreased.
Yeah. So if I get
근데
stunned by
지금
a vampire
화염구
knight,
이펙트가 좀 변한 거 같은데?
I'm going to spend less time CC'd.
Right.
Waiting, yeah.
Right. Less time CC'd and less time going back and restarting.
오,
the
이펙트가
entire
변했어.
dungeon.
약간 파란빛이 도네.
And this is really valuable with increased density, of course, because there are more monsters on screen.
Exactly.
오.
Exactly.
뭐 약간 변하긴 했어요. 파란색이 돌아. 저런 색깔이 절대 안 났는데.
When players get a chance to check out the patch notes and everything, they'll see the full
지금 바뀌어 있는 거예요? 지금 적용되어 있는 건가?
Yeah, very cool. All
And
right.
sent
What else we
like
got?
quality footage.
Yeah, I know.
제가 마지막까지 할 때도 저렇게 안 됐었거든요.
Fragments, interesting.
그러니까 스킬랩 높으면은 그 약간 파란빛이 도는 건 알았는데
Also, our paragon
화염구는
growth
처음
experience
봤어.
has been increased. This sort of falls in line with like the 40% faster. leveling
그 다음에
to 100. You
문양
also will
경험치가
get,
늘어났대요.
Your paragon glyph leveled a bit faster, so that as you are leveling
문양
up,
레벨도 빨리 올 수
your
있다.
paragon scales effectively with it, and you can feel more powerful faster.
That's it though, right? Oh no, wait. There's a whole other section.
No, there's more stuff.
Oh, okay. Well then, sure.
You can't
Talk
have
about...
nightmare dungeons without the afflictions,
That's
right?
true. Talk
그래요?
about afflictions.
그런가?
So we have a number of changes to some of our afflictions. We are constantly like looking at these and evaluating player feedback. The first one up that I have to talk about is backstabbers. So what it used to be was when a monster attacked you from behind, it just did a set increase in damage.
그 악몽 던전 옵션 중에 그 기습자였나? 그게 있었는데 걔네들이 이제 취약을 걸 수 있고 그 다음에 데미지 증가가 된다. 뭐 그런 식으로 써놨네요. 원래는 그냥 데미지 증가만 있었던 것 같은데 취약 가지고서 데미지 주는 걸로 바뀐 것 같아요.
This gives you a little bit more opportunity to have a bit of counterplay. It's not just all of a sudden like you're dead. You can play around this. You can react to it. If you manage to make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. You can strategize and pivot.
예전에 저거 막 170% 데미지 증가였나?
Yeah, I mean, there's that vulnerable condition there.
그냥
Does give you that
기습당하면
opportunity to
언제나
see, like,
죽어버렸는데.
yeah, my health globe is cracked now. Yeah, okay, I need to be more careful as I'm getting hit because creatures can do a lot more damage to me while I'm in this state.
Right. For a monster critical resist, now the monster attacks reduce the damage of your critical strikes for 3 seconds, and then this also scales by the dungeon tier. So now if once again, like if this happens to you, you have the
치명타
opportunity
데미지를
to
줄인다.
play around it, and it's not just completely nerfing your damage the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, people would avoid this one. This affliction.
원래 이런 게
particularly,
있었나?
It was a massive reduction in damage overall because you didn't have any control.
치명타
over that.
저항이 들어왔네.
Right. And just in general, what we want to avoid are afflictions that are instant salvage.
이거는 그거예요.
Right? We don't want you to like look at your sigils and say, oh, I don't want to play.
그 악몽
that, and then
던전에
just toss it
붙는
every single time
그
you see it.
옵션들 있죠.
So this is sort of like a greater
제압자를
effort to make this a bit
삭제해.
more fun, so you can see it and know that
제압자.
like, it's going to be more difficult.
아,
but not.
극대화 장황 원래 있었어요.
Death Pulse. So we made some changes to Death Pulse.
아, 맞다.
Now
60%
we
감소였구나.
prevent the
맞네.
Death pulses from monsters
그게
that
바뀌었구나.
already have death explosions, like the lunatics.
어서 오세요.
And we also prevent death pulses from spawning on top of each other or chaining with each other, so that you don't have to worry about an entire dungeon tile filling up with just death explosions that will one-shot you.
죽음의
Such
그
a great
폭발
change,
그건데.
right? So many times the lunatic explodes and I'm like,
Yep.
all right,
Yeah.
I'm all good. And then I run in and like, no,
The
There's
lunatic
more
was bad
explosions.
enough.
언디
Yeah.
질문은 지금은 조금 그렇고요. 일단 내용 이거 봐야
And-
돼가지고.
Yep, no, we're good. There we go. Lightning storm. Being
남겨드리면
shocked
제가
while in
여유
the bubble
생기면
grants
답변 드릴게요.
35% bonus movement speed for 5 seconds. This is a change coupled with the other changes where it only starts with when players are in combat, and it only starts when
그
you
번개
have a direct
폭풍인데
path to the
그
protection bubble.
버블 안에
These
들어가면은
holistic changes
이동 속도
were
보너스를
basically
받는다.
implemented to make sure that lightning storm doesn't slow down your nightmare dungeon exploration. What we were saying a lot was players wanted to get through the nightmare dungeons quickly, but when they had
아
lightning storm,
그거
they had
그
to
일리아의
stop,
방이라고
run backwards,
11티어
go
카드
hide in the
만드는
bubble,
데에서 얻을 수
wait,
있어요.
then make up that lost time, stop, go backwards. So the movement speed bonus helps a ton because it helps you make up that lost time faster. And then these other two changes
뭐 그 번개
mostly
폭풍에
focus on
대해서도
some
여러
of the
가지
more
변경
egregious
사항들이
examples
있네요.
where like a traversal is in between you and the bubble and you can't get to it in time, or for some reason
그
it's just a
전투
little too
중일
far
때만
behind you
발동이 될 것
and it's
같고
difficult to get to.
그 다음에
These will ensure that you know when the lightning
그
storm is going to happen.
캐릭터가
and
이동하는
you know
경로에
there is a way
그
to
버블이
get
생길
to the
것
bubble.
같고.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And finally, drifting shade. The duration of the drifting shade has decreased from 5 seconds to 3 seconds, and the
그 뭐죠?
respawn
그
time has increased by 2 seconds.
그늘
So similarly to
그늘도
lightning
조금
storm,
너프 당했네.
we didn't want cases where the drifting shade pops up and then players spend more of their
팔로우
time
해주셔서
running circles
감사합니다.
around the drifting shade than they do focusing on completing the dungeon itself. So this should make it a
흐르는
little bit
그늘.
easier for the dungeons for
이것도
you to be able to
너프 당했어요.
navigate the dungeons with drifting shade and not just want to avoid it completely.
뭐 대체적으로
That's great.
악몽 던전 그 어픽스들도 다 너프 당했네.
More.
Yep, more nightmare dungeon
More
stuff.
changes to Nightmare Dungeon.
So this is in addition to nightmare dungeons. This is also for our normal dungeons, but we changed some of the objectives for a handful of dungeons. You will see this in the nightmare dungeons for this season specifically, but we
아,
removed the
그래요?
objectives
이거
so that
그냥
now when you go into the
보스를
dungeon,
찾아라.
all you have to do is really just go find the boss. You can focus on the critical path. There are dungeon events and other things going on that are optional.
여러 가지 이벤트는 다 옵셔널로 변했고 그냥 보스 죽이면 끝나는 걸로 바뀐 것 같은데요.
So we're trying out this change. We're going to see kind of how it works with the dungeons that we've
막 그
implemented
뭐지
on.
막 몬스터
And we're
전체
definitely
죽이고
keeping an
막
eye out on player feedback to see how they
석상 갖다 놓고 그런 거 없어진 것 같은데.
Watching has a tear of joy sliding down his face right now after hearing that, I'm sure.
And finally, for
많은
the
던전들의
Fortnite
외관들이
dungeons,
좀
this season,
그러니까 그
like we
많은
do
던전들이
every season,
리뉴얼 됐대요.
We've went and evaluated the dungeon layouts and we've redesigned a number of these. So for the ones that do have
그냥
objectives,
뒤로 가는 그런
we've
것들도 많이
changed them,
없앴고
to limit backtracking even further.
던전은
but we
좀
also wanted to be conscious of
많이
making the
잘
dungeons
바뀔 것
just
같은데.
feel too linear. So we found a good balance where the player can engage in the objectives. of the
여기서
content
시작해가지고
without
네 마리
having
죽이고
to
위로
spend so
올라가서
much
했어야
time,
되는데.
running back and forth, which also contributes to the 40%.
되게 쉽게 변한 것 같아.
Get to level 100. But as you can see here, here's one of the nightmare dungeons that we have for season 2. In this first objective here, we had our elites that you needed to kill. They were kind of off in the wings, and it created these really bad situations where if you took a wrong turn and then you realized too late
다시 봐도 하기가
that you
싫다고요?
missed one, you'd have to go all the way back and track that guy down and waste a ton of time. So we moved these objectives to the critical path. So as long as you're just on the
그래
main
맨날
path,
막
on the
이상한 거
main
옮기라
loop,
그러고
you will
얼마나
encounter them.
귀찮았어.
And even if you do make a wrong turn, the penalty for getting back onto the critical path is not that significant. So it's like just less downtime in between reaching these objectives.
All right. Next, we have a bunch of updates to world events.
Yeah, world events.
그냥 보스만 죽여도 되게끔.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Let's bring it up. You have a hold of the slide. I think.
There we
There
go.
it is. Yes. So yeah, we've heard feedback from players. They're looking for more uptime on some of these events. They're looking for more opportunities to go and engage with this kind of content. So we made some changes for season 2.
군단 이벤트
So
얘기하는데요.
right off the bat, Legion event time between events been reduced from
30분마다
30 minutes to
발생했는데
25 minutes.
25분으로
You'll
줄었고,
find them more frequently as you're playing. This is
그다음에
great if you do want to
그
farm these to get the materials you need to go
군단
to
이벤트
Zero.
발생한다는 거
No
5분
one
전부터
will
알렸는데
interfere.
그걸
So,
10분으로
great opportunity
늘렸고,
to go and do these things. We've increased the duration of the warning timer. Moved that from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. One of the big reasons why we did this.
그다음에 그 군단 이벤트 고정되는 이슈가 고쳐졌는데,
Is in situations where the player's like wrapping up a nightmare dungeon or they're just in an instance. Want to give them a chance.
그 맵 구석에 박히는 거 그런 거 이제 더 이상 없게 했다. 뭐 그런 얘기 같아요.
We also fixed like some minor issues here where like Legion event pins would not display at the edge of players' minimaps.
그다음에 월드 보스도 원래 6시간마다 나왔는데 3시간 반마다 나온대요. 그다음에 60분 전부터 알려지고,
Now, for world boss spawns, similarly, we made another
15분
change
전에
here.
모든 플레이어한테
The duration
알려진대.
between
월드 보스
times for world
나왔다고.
boss from 6
뭐
hours to
이런
3.5 hours.
변화들도
So
있네요.
these are going to be much more available for players
근데
to
뭐
find and chase down.
엔드 가면은 거의 안 했던
It was something
컨텐츠이기
that,
때문에
players have been talking about. Hey, I have a set schedule, or am I always at work when these world boss spawns? So
일단 글쎄요.
for some now,
일단은
there's
이번에
an
보상이 좀
opportunity for players to end up
변했는지도
getting,
같이 봐야 될 것 같아요.
their chance at a
요거
world
같은
boss,
경우는.
which is really good.
Yeah, likewise, we have increased the warning timer for these bosses from 30 minutes to 60 minutes to really let you know when they're about to start and go plan to go and hit these. Because again, these have slightly higher drops for the Lord Zir fight, for example, and they still have good rewards attached to them as well.
일단 중요한 건 이 알람들을 나중에 끌 수 있느냐. 나중에 필요 없으면 꺼야 될 거 아니야.
World boss is 15 minutes away from spawning. So again, doubling down, making sure the players are aware that the world boss is about to kick off. So you don't have
나중에 잘 가지를 않잖아요.
just missed
월드
it because
보스.
you didn't realize it was up. So we think that these are going to be some changes that are going to help that quite a bit.
All right. Endgame activities.
Yeah, let's go. I can just keep going from here. So one of the things we found in Whisper Cache is it used to be when you got into World Tier 3.
그 악몽 던전 문양이 뭐였더라?
That when you finish Whisper Cache, you got effectively like the lowest sigil tier key from
시길이
that
한국말로
tier,
뭐였더라?
from that world tier.
그 악몽 던전
So
그
now
입장권.
the way it's going to work is when you go and you turn
그게
in all your
이제
whispers,
그
you get
속삭이는 나무
some
상자에서
materials for
나오는데
Roshan, and you also get
언제나
a
5레벨
random
높게
sigil,
최대 레벨
that
5레벨 높게
that
나온다.
sigil is always going to be within 5 levels of the highest.
인장.
맞아요,
인장.
So they're going to be more relevant.
알겠습니다.
for you, based on your current
들어가세요.
progression as you continue to go. So I think that's going to be a fun change for players. The next, so I really want to hammer down this. So gold rewards
여기다가
from Whisper
특별하게
Caches
노란색으로
have
해놨는데요.
been really significantly increased.
그
Greatly
속삭임의
increased.
나무에서 나오는
Greatly increased.
That's why it's in a different color. We
Yes.
want to very much emphasize greatly.
So if you're
그
looking for
속삭임의
gold,
나무에서
for your
나오는
build, whether you're trying to do,
골드의
like, a
보상이
massive
엄청나게
boost
많이
of your
늘었대요.
character, and you're looking for the chance to reroll many more times on an item to get exactly
여기 노란색으로
the
표시할
items you're
만큼
looking for.
많이 늘었나 봐요.
Whispers end up being a really great source of gold for you to continue to farm as you're getting into the end game, and remains so as you go. So it's going to be a really, really big change for you to be able to engage with as you play. And then, so next up,
그다음에 이제 속삭임의 나무랑 그 지옥 물결에서의 경험치량이 많이 늘었다.
The XP rewards from those moments are much more substantial in this point. We're okay with the idea that nightmare dungeons remain a really great source of experience for players. That's fine.
뭐 이것도 한 번씩 해봐야겠네요. 뭐 얼마나 많이 늘었을진 모르겠지만.
Are brought up to feel that they are more competitive with nightmare dungeons.
그래요? 그 지르경 소환할 때 재료 모아야 돼서 월보랑 가야 된다. 아니요, 마부 관련한 내용은 아직 안 나왔었어요. 그거 잠깐 좀 이따 살펴볼게요. 그러니까 재료 모으는 거.
And then, some minor things here. So Whisper Caches, we're granting items from that reward moment that weren't always tied to the item slot associated with the cache. So we've gone through, we've made some changes on the loot side to ensure that won't be the case anymore. So if you go and you open a boots cache, then you're always going to get boots from that cache. So that's going to be a change.
그 위스퍼 상자는 더 이상 그 아이템 인벤토리 가는 게 아니라 그 상자 거기에 들어간다 그런 내용이고요.
And then also, Helltide chests now also have specific icons on the map to indicate their type. So if you're trying to figure out exactly where rings could be found,
그다음에 그 지옥 물결에 있는 그 상자의 종류가 맵에 직접적으로 표시가 된다.
So yeah, some good changes for endgame activity stuff there.
예전에 무슨 보호의 상자 그렇게 썼던 것 같은데.
Next we got some UI and UX changes I know that we're putting into the game. Joe, do you want to take us through?
오, 요거는 뭐 나쁘지 않다.
So, of course,
즐겨찾기 혹은 안 쓰는 폐품 그거 따로 표시할 수 있게.
For a while now, and you can once an item is marked as junk, you can actually sell.
그래,
it
이거는 나쁜 변화는
It's
아니네.
pretty handy, but it's really sort of some players have different ways
필요했어.
that they want to manage their inventory. You know, they've got players who are like, I want to go back to town and then I want to do all this, or I want to do it in the field. And so we want to provide more flexibility for players who like to manage their inventory in different ways to do that. So we've added the ability to favorite items, and of course, this protects from situations where you might have accidentally salvaged or sold an item that is really important.
그다음에 그 미상 추출할
when you
때에
use the sort button in your inventory or in your stash, the aspects that have the same power will now be sorted together so that
그 정렬되는 것들
A lot more when you're trying to dig through
그런
your
거
inventory,
있고
figure out exactly where things are.
this one is a
정렬
little
기능이
bit,
대체적으로
subtle.
개선이 됐네요.
So when you're looking at the affixes that are listed on an item tooltip, so maybe you have strength and crit chance. Something
아,
like that.
그래요? 속삭임이 나오는 바르샨이고
The
그 악몽전전 얼음 보스는 악던, 지르경은 월보랑 군단 돌아야 된다. 걔를 돌아야지 재료 모아서 가나 보군요.
Location vertically in the list of affixes, which makes it a little bit easier to evaluate
When you're comparing both
two
of them.
items to each other.
Exactly.
And dungeon map tooltips. This is, I know, Adam, this is one that
This is one I like. As soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you.
So they'll now display, when there's an active whisper, they'll now display the aspect name and the description. It's no longer hidden by the whisper being
되게
active.
짜잘한
Everyone's
변화들이야.
got like one or two things in particular that are fairly like small in isolation. They're like, oh, thank God.
아, 그래, 해줬네 하고 넘길 내용들인데.
which is great. We're excited.
And of course, this is a really cool one. You can now search and filter your stash. And
필터.
we have video of this. This includes text
오,
search.
잠깐만.
You've got a bunch of different filters down there. You can filter by item type, item rarity. You can filter by sacred and ancestral items. And
일단
then,
여기
you
검색창도
see
있긴
there,
한데.
at the bottom, we've got a text box, so you can search for keywords and other text on the item. And this searches across all your stash tabs too. So if you take a look at the top there,
사람들이 원하던 필터는
it's a
아닌데.
little hidden by the tooltip right now, but you can see that there are 4 items in this tab that have that fill the
옵션
criteria.
필터링이 되는 건가?
Or in this case, there
안
are
될
3
것
in that
같은데.
tab, 1 in the other tab. So they're highlighted, so make it easier for players to search through and find items in their stash.
Yeah,
글쎄요, 저거는 잘 모르겠다.
Requested item from players as well. A lot of our UI UX updates in general are, fueled by feedback that we've received either through social media or on our forums.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have some more. So players that want to hide identifying information,
뭐야,
character
스트리머
names
모드가
or
나온대요.
battle.net tags for other players can now find these settings in the social options menu.
That's right, streamers. You got streamer mode.
Streamer mode.
And this is a one that we've seen a lot of feedback on. Players want to be able to hide vulnerable.
뭐
status
이런 거
effect texts, so
텍스트 숨길 수
vulnerable,
있는
fortified.
기능도 나오고.
This is an option that's been added to the menu to hide those, so you can hide them along with hiding the combat numbers.
Yeah, this is a direct response to everyone on X and other media platforms that will text on a regular basis asking for this option. It's
They'd be like, I can hide the numbers, but I can't hide,
Yeah.
fortify.
Totally fair. Happy to get this out to players. Yeah.
And we've added an auto run feature.
이건 뭐야?
So you can bind a key to auto run, and then you can
그냥
use,
자동으로
character will
달리는
run
기능인데.
direction, that they're facing on a controller, or the direction that you the mouse cursor, where the mouse cursor is located.
마우스가 있는
you can start
방향으로
running, and then
달리는
you
그런
can,
기능이 추가가
move
된다.
your inventory, bring up the map, do those kinds of things.
Awesome. And then we have a lot of
One more thing.
Oh,
This I don't want to forget.
I'm
this
like,
one.
see, we have so much stuff, and I know I try to
Yeah.
get ahead of myself. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
but
let's
this
go to
one,
the next section.
this one is important. Antonio
그다음에 이제
was talking about
미니맵이
the
확대가
improvements to
된다.
newer dungeons to help navigate through them.
아니면은 더
This,
멀리까지도 볼
change
수
to the
있다.
minimap
미니맵에 대한
significantly
그
zooms out,
줌인
the
줌아웃이
base,
가능한 것
zoom
같아요.
level within the app. And this will really help
아, 줌인은 안
players,
되고
navigate through
줌아웃만.
towns, navigate through some areas of the world that are sort of more dense in terms of terrain and obstructions, and navigate in dungeons. This means that when you're in a dungeon, you can see more of the dungeon layout that's near your player on the minimap than you could before.
Yeah, if you're approaching a fork in the overworld, you're not sure which way leads back to the main trail. Like this is definitely a huge benefit for players.
And I know now I can get ahead of myself here. We have a lot of updates regarding items as well
Yes.
that we do want to kind of go over. So, Mr. Joey P.
아이템에 대한
happy to
많은
talk.
변경 사항들이 있나 봐요.
So yeah, we made a few changes. I know that some things we've already talked about a bit before, right? But here, gems no longer drop directly as rewards. Now players can be earning these new gem shards, these fragments, materials they can use at the jeweler.
이제
to craft
보석이
their own
직접
gems.
드랍이 안
So basically,
되고요.
as you're wandering through the world,
그
and you're
잼
getting monsters,
샤드
opening chests,
조각을
you're dropping
얻어가지고
these fragments as you
만들어야
play.
된다고 하네요.
And rather than having like individual items that go into your inventory. These shards are going to go into
보석이
your materials tab.
직접 드랍이
And then
아니다.
as you want to create gems, you can go back to the jeweler. You could spend those fragments to create gems rather that will go into your inventory that you can then
이제
slot
보석
on
조각이
items
드랍이 돼서 원하는 거
Basically takes
만들어라.
all of those gems have been randomly appearing from completing events and opening chests out of your inventory. It gives you the option as the player to choose when you want to go and create gems that you need for your items.
And just to make sure people are aware, like, of course, when you do create a gem, it does then appear in your inventory.
그동안은 보석 드랍 때도 잘 먹지도 않았는데
an item, but now
이제
you'll be
열심히
finding all
샤드
those gems
주워가지고
out in the world
만들어야 될
that
것
will
같아요.
fill up your inventory. Those will just appear as materials now.
That's right.
Within your
아,
And you
자리
also can see how much
차지하니까
of those gems that you can
샤드로
save,
바꾼
and
거구나.
then use those materials to go and create better gems. So yeah, big changes there. It frees up a lot of inventory space. Feels good. Enchantment cost been updated. What a strange single line,
What
right?
a very general.
So the ultimate thing here that I want to cut to is enchantment costs overall have been reduced, but the way that works out is that your initial enchant cost is going to be a little bit higher than it is currently.
아, 이거 되게 중요한 내용인데요. 마법 부여 가격이 전체적으로는 줄었는데 처음 마법 부여할 때는 가격이 조금 올라갔다 그 얘기를 했네요.
So players overall, it's going to be a little bit less expensive for players to go and try to re-roll items to their heart's content to find things they're looking for. And this partnered with the changes that we made to Whisper Bounty Cash.
예전보다 전체적으로는 내용 그 액수가 줄었다라는 얘기를 합니다.
Greatly, significantly increased in those situations are going to help those defer a lot of those costs for players if you don't end up using a lot of that gold to go and trade and do other things instead. So yeah, big changes there. Okay, so another really big change here is that when players get into higher world tiers, I'll read the line.
그렇죠. 전체적으로 줄었으면 좋은
In
거죠.
place of lower item power, normal magic, and rare equipment in world tiers 3 and 4. What do I mean when I say that? What I mean is when you go into world tier 3 and you start getting sacred items dropping for monsters, you will find that you will no longer be having normal items dropping for monsters. The only items that will drop for monsters in World Tier 3 will be sacred in nature.
뭔가 노멀, 매직, 레어 장비에 낮은 아이템 그 파워를 가지고 있는 것들이 월드 티어나 3에서도 드랍이 될 거다. 낮은 등급의 아이템들이 고행이나 악몽에서도 떨어진다라는 얘기 같아요.
To basically offset any concerns that players might have about needing to sell off all of those typical rare items, as they're progressing through. Now, I will say that if a legendary item drops for you that is of normal quality that you could have got level 50, in World Tier 2, if a legendary item drops for you, that will still appear for you in World Tier 3. So that you're not going to be losing out on legendary items that potentially could drop for you.
이거는 의도를 제가 좀 이해를 해야 될 것 같은데.
only ancestral items will drop for you as you're playing. You will no longer see sacred items or normal items from that point forward. Once again, legendary and unique items in that case of sacred nature or normal nature will still continue to appear for you as you continue to play. But for the most part, getting a ton of these items out of your inventory as part of this change.
Yeah, it's this and the gems changes are going to help out a lot with.
이건 제가 이해를 못한 것 같은데 이해하면은
ensure that they're focusing on
나중에 좀
the items that they're really going to
말씀을
want.
드릴 수
And of course,
있겠네요.
getting the benefit of getting all the materials now from the items that were dropping beforehand. They'll just now be materials that will be
재료로 드랍된다?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's not even the end of the big changes we have planned. So another thing we're doing as part of Season 2, and again, this is on the Eternal Realm and also in the Seasonal Realm, is when you're starting to go into World Tier 3 and 4, items that are dropping for you.
높은 레벨의 몬스터들이, 그러니까 그 악몽이랑 고행에서의 높은 레벨 몬스터들은 신성이랑 선조 아이템들을 드랍을 한다. 그러니까 더 높은 레벨의 아이템일수록 이건 근데 당연한 거 아닌가? 예전엔 안 그랬었는데 더 그런 메리트를 준다는 것 같은데 레벨 몬스터가 높으면 높을수록 더 아이템 위력이 높은 애들이 떨어진다는 거니까 약간 차별점을 두는 것 같아요.
Level 65, 68, 70, you've kind of collected all the ancestral gear that you can get, minus uniques you might still be hunting for, once you get into that tier. But you might have already got all of the gear that you're looking for, particularly eye power-wise, as you're progressing through. Now the way that we've changed things
맞죠?
is that
제가 이해한 게 맞죠.
I guess we'll talk about Sacred Tier first. So if you fight a level 55 monster, you'll have the typical Sacred Eye Power range when you're fighting that creature. When you fight a level 56 creature, the eye power minimum and maximum of that range increases by 2. So every monster level from that point forward, the eye power of the potential output of that item is higher as a result of that. To encourage players to want to go and try to fight higher, more difficult, higher level.
그러니까 결국에는 더 높은 아이템 위력 아이템 구하려면 더 센 애들 죽여야 된다라는 건데. 근데 이거 예전에도 좀 반영이 되어 있지 않았어요? 근데 거의 뭐 느끼질 못하긴 했지. 근데 그걸 더 확실하게 하는 것 같아요.
And part of that is ensuring the players have a sense of progress as they go. And when we think about sacred and ancestral progression, when you're getting into that part of the game, one of the things we've wanted to try to ensure is that players do have the time needed to go and kind of gather items of value that they can use to put their build together. But we don't want the player to feel like
그러니까 더 높은 아이템 위력이면은 그 성능 자체가 좋으니까.
And not getting any real progress past level 70 in this case, if you're getting into your ancestral gear fairly early, that's not worth the cost of making sure that you've got your time to get your things together.
잠깐 말이 너무 혀가 길다.
Have opportunities for upgrades as time goes on, right? So in World Tier 4, starting at level 75,
말이 많다.
typical range, but then that continues to go up by 2, for every monster level above that, going up pretty high. Once you get to level 100,
몬스터 레벨마다
ancestral items
점점
of,
올라간다.
920 at that point, and that's just at level 100, right? Once you start fighting higher level monsters than level 100,
920의 아이템 포텐셜이라고요?
the minimum range of the item output goes up by 1 for every monster level from that point forward.
아니 잘못
So you get to a point
해석된
where
거지.
you're fighting level 150 creatures and such that the eye power range of that item, 175 monsters and such, the eye power ranges of those items are effectively like on par. Like they are, it's like 920 to 920 is like the end result.
920.
As you go deeper and deeper into the system.
Yeah, so you start to shrink down that window.
Yeah, you slowly shrink down that window.
아, 아이템 위력이 더 올라가나 보구나. 900까지.
And in Nightmare Dungeons and other content types, like it's much more likely.
저런 건 왜 안 알려줘?
Now, one change we didn't make as part of this is we didn't change the ranges on affixes that are attached to these. So the change that we're talking about here is getting you more weapon damage on your weapons, more armor value on your armor pieces, and more of the inherent resistance, which is so much more important now in season 2 than it was in the past, attached to your jewelry. So that will continue to grow as you get more eye power for these gear pieces. So now this is naturally going to push players to fight more difficult monsters, and we want that. We think that's fun, right? But that's not, we want to make sure that other content pieces also provide the opportunity for meaningful rewards as well. So one other change that we made here for Whispers, for example, is that the caches that you get at the end of a Whisper turn-in, the rewards for that are actually 10 eye power better We should say that they're 5 monster levels higher than what you would normally get, because usually rewards that you get from these caches
그냥
are based
이거는
on your character.
그 뭐지?
level.
속삭임의 나무
Features
상자에서
based
나오는
on the
아이템이
goals for the
아이템
year.
위력이
Now
높게
there's
나온다.
offsets. You get additional item power
라는
value
거고요.
from the items that you get from that cache normally. And then in
이거를
addition to that, the
나중에
upgrade
활용할 수
caches, the
있을지도
legendary
한번
caches
봐야
that usually
되겠네요.
appear when you're turning in your whispers, those are going to give you 20 eye power above what your level is at that moment. Meaning these end up being compelling ways for players to want to go and try to collect rewards from engaging with these systems. Again, while they're earning tons of gold, and also while they are getting materials they need to go and summon the Echo of Varshan in World Tiers 3 and 4. And then next, of course,
그 다음에 그 지옥 물결에서의 아이템들은 아이템 위력이 20 높게 나온다.
have a 20 eye power offset attached to them for the wards that come out of that. Now, question that might get asked
이번에 아이템 위력이 꽤나 중요한가 본데요. 원래 중요하긴 했는데 가치를 더 두나 보네.
The very best items in the game are going to be delivered to you from whisper caches and helltide caches. Only that these changes allow these cache systems to provide meaningful rewards much longer into progression.
And again,
just tied to level.
And again, the eye power cap is you mentioned
920 for ancestral.
920.
Yeah,
there you go. Because I know there's a lot of people asking 820, 920. So
yeah, we think that these are going to be some good changes for players to feel that they're getting some of those upgrades as they.
그러네. 920까지 올라가니까 굉장히 중요한 내용이에요, 이건. 이거를 언급을 해야지 안 하네. 그러면은 기본 공격 수치도 올라가는 거고 100이나 올라갔잖아.
You know what? I'm gonna like go back to 20 minutes or 30 minutes ago when we were talking about the 5 bosses and being able to progress through them. You know, one thing that we talked about Uber Duriel.
야, 지금 나오네요. 보면은
how, you know, king of maggots. His Majesty.
Exactly.
월드 보스랑 그다음 분단 이벤트를 통해서 지르경을 죽일 수 있고 이런 거.
Because they all have their own loot tables and everything associated with them. At least with Duriel, because that.
아 그러네. 악던보다 더 높은 아이템 위력이 나올 수도 있겠네요.
What type of like kind of
그것도 확인해봐야 될 것 같습니다.
Yeah, you'll find eye power 920 stuff off Duriel. So there are unique items that Duriel drops that are only some of them are very new and coming in with season 2 that only come from Duriel that are just really powerful, right? And then there are the uber unique items that drop as well. Now, for the unique items dropping him, there is a tighter range versus like relative to other bosses and other things. In general, unique items that drop from these bosses they're not going to roll the full like 75 eye power range. You know, they're much tighter across the board as you kind of step up into the more powerful bosses. You know, so I think the eye power range for Duriel, the eye power range for Duriel is much smaller than 75. I don't remember exactly what the range is specifically for that number, but. That is increased, but the uber unique items that drop from that have a chance to drop, a low chance to drop, but still will certainly drop from Duriel. Those are always rolled at cap, so they're always rolled at the highest eye power possible, and all of the affixes on the uber
얘가 드랍하는 아이템들은 아이템 이력이 고정되어 있는 것
So when you
같은데요.
get an uber unique item, there's not a better version of that specific uber unique item
그러네요.
you get. That's always the very best one.
Yeah, so if you find a Shaco, you've got the very best version right there. So
yeah, you have it. Yeah,
that's awesome. Nice, cool. Well, I know we just went through a slew
최고의
of
그 아이템
changes,
위력으로 나오나
and
보네.
updates coming to the game.
보스 애들 죽였을 때 나오는 우버 유니크들은 아이템 위력이 최대다.
We didn't talk about unique item changes.
Didn't talk about the damage buckets.
And I will note, like, unique item changes, like I said before, like pretty much almost all unique items, or nearly all unique items, are getting some sort of update, which we will talk about on October 10th. I know a lot of people have asked for Mr. Adam Jackson to reappear, and he will be back on October 10th to talk about all the different class changes that are coming. And
he has been summoned.
He has been summoned. He's on vacation.
He's on vacation.
We got the materials.
He's watching though.
We got the materials to summon.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about all that stuff. We're also going to be talking about the resistance changes and stuff that we've been talking about already today, and how it's going to be much more valuable for people to be ensuring that they have it on like rings and.
다음 주 내용도 너무 중요한 게 많은데.
We're gonna get into it, but there are changes to the way that it works. So. Like, folks at home might be saying like, oh, that like there's a resistance boss, but like with the current resistance system, how is that going to work? And the 1010 stream is really going to explain it, how the
tune in
streams
for that
work.
one.
And,
Exactly. And I will also note that on the 1010 stream, we will even be talking about
다들
first update
머리가 많이
coming
빠졌어요.
even after season 2 launches. And that's something that we can briefly talk about here, which is after season 2 launches, we'll of course have additional updates that'll be coming within the season, and each of these updates are going to be adding new things, new ways of being able to enjoy the
10월
content and new
18일이요.
features that players
2주
have
정도
been asking
남았습니다.
for. So we'll be actually showcasing what 1-1 will be in that October 10th stream as well. So people will get an early look of what the first update post Season 2 launch will be. And of course, we have a lot more to even talk about at BlizzCon. So if you are going to be at BlizzCon, make sure to check it out. Of course, we'll be streaming, and there'll be more information about, I know, the BlizzCon collection items and everything that will be available for players to be able to.
다들 머리가 많이
They'll
빠져서.
have, items within Diablo 4, and of course items from other games that are going to be featured at BlizzCon, like World of Warcraft, Overwatch, and all the others. So.
But most importantly, at BlizzCon, you can bug Adam in person.
Yes, you can bug all of us in person at BlizzCon. So make sure to.
뭔 소리야 이게?
to Anaheim to check it.
블리즈컨 와서 버그 찾으라는 얘기를 하네.
Grab a ticket to BlizzCon, which is in early November. So should be good. First weekend in November, Friday and Saturday. All right. One other thing that we did want to talk about is there's some changes that are coming in regards to Smoldering Ashes. For the free tier of the Battle Pass, because we've gotten a lot of feedback from players, and this kind of ties back to the experience.
이게 그 시즌 콘텐츠죠. 그 재, 이글거리는 재. 그거에 대한 내용이 남았어요.
And you would already be like a higher level and everything like that. And I know
뭐가
one of the big
변경 사항이
changes
있나
that we're
본데?
doing is the character level requirements for those specific tiers with Smoldering Ashes have been reduced. So players will now actually run into those Smoldering Ashes and be able to use them. And they will automatically unlock now, which is really nice. Earlier within the actual battle passes they're playing through.
표정은 저쪽이
So you
새벽이다.
happen to miss one when you're leveling up, which I think happened to a lot of players.
Yes.
Certainly happened to me. It's like it's now when you go back to the when you go and you actually open up the battle pass, you'll see that you've already unlocked those Smoldering Ashes. You can go right and spend those in your season blessings and benefit from them right away.
On new season blessings, yes, there are 3 new season blessings for season 2 that will be part of the new battle pass, of course. And of course, one other thing with the battle pass is there is going to be new town portal skins that will be unlocked and available for players. As well. So of course, you can now change from blue town portal to different color town portal if you'd like, and there will be other town portal skins available in the battle
어디로 가는
pass
포탈인가?
as well. So
Yeah, I like this angelic sort of feel to this
angelic
one.
one.
Very cool.
Yeah, you can look like you're friends with Imperius or like best friends with Imperius.
이걸 몇 분 동안 이렇게 보여줄
with
건가?
with your new town
Again, the
portal.
free track.
Exactly.
Yep.
Imperius, Inarius. Sorry.
Well, any of the angels.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
just pick
It
a
would be
spear
more
angel.
orange, I would say, if it was Imperius to match him. So I've been playing some Heroes of the Storm lately. So
Love Heroes of the
there you
Storm.
go. I've got Imperius on my mind right now. Well, we do actually have one other big news thing that we did want to actually talk about today as well, which is we are bringing more Diablo 4 players into the world because we're here to announce that Diablo 4 is actually going to be launching on Steam with the launch of Season 2.
어,
So on
스팀에
October
디아블로 4가
17th,
나온다는데요.
Diablo 4 will be available on Steam. Nice part about being on Steam, of course, is it carries over the same elements as all the other or all the other platforms. So cross play, cross progression will work.
그렇죠. 아마 디아로 옮겨갈 것
for
같아요.
anyone who does purchase on Steam.
언디는
And
이제
so if you
잠깐 놓아주고.
have friends on Battle.net and they prefer to play on Steam, they can of course play together from both sides, which is awesome to see. So wishlist will be available immediately after the stream for Diablo 4.
뭐 이미 샀는데 또
coming on
사라고?
Steam. It's really nice if you
이미 산 걸로 할
if you
거야.
have a Steam Deck, it's another option of being able to play Diablo 4 because you can now take it like on the road with you, which is really good to see.
아, 스팀덱 있는
Yeah,
사람들은
lots of
디아블로 할 수
Sanctuary on the
있어서 그 얘기구나.
Sanctuary on the go, yeah. which is good. And by the way, cross progression and everything. Of course, that works with the console players as well. So if you're playing on Steam, you'll of course be able to play with Xbox and PlayStation users from that end. But I'm really impressed, by the way, that we got through a lot of content here in a pretty efficient manner.
So fast.
We actually are going to go through some Q&A from everyone in Twitch chat. So if you actually have a question and you're in Twitch chat,
이거 정리하면서 Q&A
we'll try
듣죠.
to grab as many questions as possible.
일단
Use my trusty iPad
약간 엔드
and,
컨텐츠
ask the
구조가
questions and,
변경이
of course, call
됐고
out people's names and attempt to pronounce them
그다음에
correctly.
각종
But I know we
편의성
will start off
개선,
with one first question here as we
뭐
grab more
던전부터 시작해가지고
within the group. But what plans do you have for itemization?
Yeah. So we've obviously got a ton of
보스,
feedback about the feeling of earning rewards in Diablo 4 and the feeling
아이템,
of like the power of those items and how interesting they are.
뭐 이런
and
것들이
easy they are to
있고
compare and what the path towards getting like perfect items feels like and really what players are meant to do once they reach like that threshold of the game where they're trying to like fully like perfect their build. We have a lot of ideas of things we want to add on the itemization side in Diablo 4. The sorts of things I talked about earlier in the item section, like those really are just like some first
또 뭐
small
있었지?
steps of the sorts of things we
중간에
want to do. But we're reading through all this feedback. We have
지르경
like,
두리엘,
really interesting
그다음에
ideas and designs
얼음
that we're working
야수.
on the side. And we're excited to be able to bring those
이렇게.
things to you over time. And we'll be talking about more of them in the future. But yeah, we have big plans for itemization for Diablo 4.
Yeah, I mean, really the themes here are more endgame stuff and improvements to itemization.
Yeah.
All right. Quick question here from Cursed47. It's great to improve mounts, but what will you do to fix and address open world items? Teleporting from Nightmare Dungeon to Nightmare Dungeon sometimes isn't very fun and wasn't the best way to fix the time issue. Is there more plans for open world elements using
탈 것.
mounts? Sometimes doesn't feel like it matters after a certain point.
Yeah, I'm not sure what is being asked there.
They're asking if there's going to be like
이
some more
정도인 것
plans for some,
같은데요?
like open world content or anything that will be on the open world.
뭐
I
엄청
think a lot of it
대단하다
ties back
그런
to some of the
변경
stuff that
사항은
we're
지금
actually
없었던
seeing
것
in
같아.
seasons. 'Cause seasons
바뀐 건
actually ends
맞는데
up adding,
많아요. 바뀐
a
건
lot more
많은데
content to the open world, even with season 2, with us being able to add additional objectives and everything for.
아, 시즌 내용 추가된
Yeah,
거지.
there are. We want to have a mix of gameplay that occurs in dungeons, which is core Diablo gameplay, and gameplay that's occurring in the open world. And so with season 2, you see things like the
Blood Harvest.
the new Blood Harvest, exactly, and some of the changes like the monsters being on level with you in open world, and the changes that Joe talked about with item power based on monster power.
아,
Yeah.
이것도
In addition
있다.
to that, just making sure that the various activities we have in Diablo 4
아, 이거는
feel more rewarding
여기에.
to engage in on their own. One component of that being that the summoning materials that you need to go and farm these bosses that you want for these special unique items, and in some ways to go and challenge Duriel as well for those uber unique opportunities. Like these represent, I think, good steps forward to kind of make these content feel more compelling in general. But as we continue to march forward and we're looking at, I mean, we showed the content chart earlier with like all of the bosses and the way that we're sort of thinking about various parts of the end game experience. There's a lot of room there for us to continue to create more distinct
이게 되게
activities.
중요한 것 같아요. 컨텐츠를 어떻게 바라보고 있느냐 그런 거라.
Kind of parts of Sanctuary to make things more fun and engaging for players. So this really is again like just like the first step of the sorts of things we want to continue to add and inject into Diablo 4 over time, right? And adding more content to the overworld is a part of that. Particularly like content that has like high monster density.
그러니까 예전에 그런 거 있었어요. 악몽 던전을 제가 저번 시즌에 많이 안 돌았는데 왜 그러냐면 악몽 던전에 그 피해 물결, 지옥 물결 많이 안 돌았는데
We have a question from these names. Legless puppy, which probably rolls around on wheels. And it's probably
그 중에 재료 중에 그거 있었죠. 이친 영혼. 그거를 이제 구하려면은 무조건 지옥 물결 돌았어야 되는데 분해로도 얻을 수 있다 보니까 많이 안 돌게 됐었거든요. 그런 거에 대한 좀 변경 사항들이 있었어야지 각각 컨텐츠를 즐길 텐데.
So we have talked before quite a bit about how we look at power progression in Diablo 4. Particularly, like we talked a lot more about this like before launch, and a little bit before season 1. But Diablo 4 is designed with the idea of kind of cap power progression sort of in mind. We want to make sure that we find the right ways for players to continue to grow the power of their characters as they continue to engage in the game. We will be looking for more opportunities for players.
지금 얘기 나오는 게 그 문양에 대한 최고 레벨 증가에 대해서 얘기하고 있어요.
In ways that feel compelling and are fun, and don't feel like this extra task work they have to do in order to like take that next step, right?
Yeah, I think if I think about the reasoning behind that question, I think part of it comes down to we talk about cap power progression, which has good reasons, like you're talking about, but also players are saying like, well, I ran out of stuff to do. Can there be more stuff to do, right? And so increasing the Paragon glyph cap could be one way to do that. The way we're doing it in Season 2 is through all of the endgame boss summoning mechanics.
Yeah, the endgame boss summoning mechanics, and then the vampire powers people level up as
That's
you go
right.
through the season,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, it's not even just having more things to do. It's making sure that there are more things to do that impact the performance of my character, and I feel like there's more ways I can get stronger.
At endgame progress. Yes,
Right.
yeah, that's a much better way to say it.
No, yeah, but I think that it's all fair, right? I think it's
지금 뭔 얘기했냐면 그 문양의 레벨을 올릴 수 있느냐 그걸 얘기했는데 이제 다른 엔드 컨텐츠에서 더 힘을 올릴 수 있으니까 이제 그걸로 여러분의 캐릭터의 힘을 올릴 수 있을 거다. 그래서 직접적으로 뭐 올리는 거에 대해서는 그렇게 동의하진 않았네요.
Won't talk about anything today, but
we'll look into it.
Wink. What an interesting idea. What an interesting idea.
There you go. Yeah. Cool. Next question that we have is from, trying to pronounce these names here. DEYV. Question about Uber Uniques. Is there a chance for you guys to improve Uber Unique stats?
So Uber Uniques are going to be one of those things that are going to get discussed, I think, a little bit more next week when Adam is on talking about the content changes for classes and the various like item bucket changes and things, or the affix and skill bucket changes they've made. So I think that's a good question for that group to answer as part of that conversation. But I suspect that there are opportunities for us to make some improvements, particularly with some Uber Uniques.
Yeah. JJ Lafrite says, is the stash search usable for legendary powers and affixes?
Yes.
Yes, you can search through those. So
이번에 그 창고에서 검색 기능 추가돼가지고 원하는 위상을 검색할 수 있다.
Look that up specifically from that end. Nelix87 says, are there any plans to give clans some love? Currently, clan management is very limited. Clan leaders and their officers has very minimal tools to track anything related to the clan. Are there like maybe plans for like clan stashes or more opportunities for clans to actually be able to, share?
Yeah, we'd love to add more social options and in particular clan management tools, more cool things.
그 길드에 대한 내용이 나오고
있고요. Something that we'll have more to share on in the future.
Peter Odin says, will we be receiving more coins in the battle pass instead of 666? And I know that there is a change this season for the battle pass because there was a lot of feedback where players would receive platinum and then they wouldn't be able to actually end up using that platinum to be able to grab something from the shop. You will be able to use platinum from the battle pass this season because there's going to be options now that will meet that specific amount. So players will have some options available to them from that end.
그냥 소셜만 개선하지 그 길드 창고에 대해서는 얘기를 안 했네요. 답변을 피했어.
Any news on set items?
So no news on set items just yet. So in terms of the number of uniques we're adding every season, we've been sticking to around 6 so far. There are more than 6 as part of Season 2. So we'll talk more about that. I believe in the blog we talk about some of these numbers. But yeah, I think there's more than, I think there's like 12 uniques in Season 2 right now. We'll be continuing to evaluate these counts as we go, but now that there's ways for players to farm these things, we're excited about trying to find more opportunities to inject some of them. But we also want to continue to add new legendary aspects as well. And more ways to kind
뭐
of
전설 위상이라든지 유니크 아이템을 추가할 거지 세트 아이템을 추가할 것 같진 않다.
Season 2 is represented like we think that there should be more
Yeah.
in a season, and season 2 is representative of that direction.
Yeah.
Question from Fletchy. Good name. Good name, not biased at all. How is Duriel going to compare to Echo of Lilith regarding difficulty?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So Echo of Lilith is our pinnacle challenge boss. She is very, very difficult. We've made some adjustments to her to make her a little bit easier for players of different builds to take down, which I think you've seen some of those changes even during the course of Season 1. But in Season 2,
그런
Duriel is designed
질문은
not to be
없었네요.
at that same level of difficulty.
아까 정복자
It is a
보드
little
최고
bit
레벨
easier because you can
물어봤는데
use all the materials to
그건
go fight Duriel
일단은
and you could fail. Right? So like we want to make
레벨
sure that
증가는
if you
없다.
have
그렇게
gotten your build
답변을
together
했어요.
and you
간접적으로
know the fight
했어요.
really well and you've got the proper amount of poison resist, which I recommend, that's going to make it a little bit easier to engage with overall versus the hard mechanical challenge that Lilith poses kind of separately. So Duriel is going to be less difficult overall to overcome than Uber Lilith in this way.
I'm going to try to combine two questions into one here because I think they're pretty similar in terms of, or at least we can talk about them both together. Team Loose Leaf asks, will the 5 new bosses you target farm be a permanent addition after Season 2? Don't answer that yet.
Oh.
You already did. But we can go to Thanks, Joe.
You
But
have
then
to say it before
I
you ask
did.
the
I was
question.
saying I was going to
through it,
combine
Adam, talk through
two. And then now I can't even find the other question, but it was related to, oh, here it is. Fat Teppy says, do you guys have any plans for Eternal Realm content, something permanent that isn't just seasonal? Which I do want to note because Joe just mentioned, yes, the boss ladder items that we were just talking about will be going beyond Season 2. And then they also will be part of the Eternal Realm, day 1 with Season 2. So even Eternal Realm characters will be able to partake in farming those.
아마 그 스탠다드 캐릭터들은
Bosses and items, yeah.
시즌 컨텐츠가 이번에 그 피에 관련된 그 여러 가지 스탯들이 있었잖아요. 그런 거 못 쓰고 나머지 뭐 아이템 추가라든지 그런 거 컨텐츠 추가 이런 거는 아마 스탠다드에서도 할 수 있을 거다. 이제 그렇게 얘기를 하는 것 같습니다.
We do see that there's a lot of space in here for players in Eternal Realm and in Seasons to go and engage with different kinds of content at different points in progression. So we are excited about trying to provide more of those opportunities as we kind of continue on in development for Diablo 4. It's part of making the game better, is making sure that it's more fun at those stages, particularly World Tiers 3 and especially World Tier 4.
Yeah.
Question from Ice Gammon. Have you guys given thought to being able to craft specific nightmare dungeon keys rather than crafting over and over to get a specific dungeon?
Yes. We are still kind of talking about how we want players to engage in Nightmare Dungeons and what makes it most fun for them. So we're in constant conversations and we're looking at gameplay and analytics and also just general player feedback. And we're taking all of these things into account. So it is one of the things that we're thinking about.
그냥 고려만 하고
Question from
있다.
Digital Wizard 91 regarding endgame boss mechanics. Is there any visual improvements to the readability of their attacks compared to other bosses or other encounters that we've had in the past?
Yes, there have been.
Yeah, I think I know we showed really brief.
We showed some of the stuff on traps, right? But there are other visual improvements.
Yeah, and we even showed the boss quick little intros as they're kind of coming
intros,
in.
right?
But you can, at least with Gregor, you can kind of see some of his mechanics that are in play there regarding the tiles, and you can clearly see where they're going to be hitting when encountering this specific boss. So yeah, there are some changes for sure on that. BR Bulbul. Are you going to be able to save builds to a wardrobe like Diablo 3 potentially in the future?
Oh, builds, yeah, like you can with transmogs right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that we'd like to add in the future.
빌드 저장 기능은 나중에 추가하고 싶다.
It continues to be true.
Yeah, continue to be true.
Has not changed.
But
Is there any plans
이번에는
for,
그런 건
this from
없고.
Intrepid Gamer, are there any plans for adding a trade interface where players aren't having to actually use other third-party tools, like going over Discord or something like that to potentially find opportunities to find other users that might have that.
Yeah, there's some light functionality baked into trade chat right now, but I think we're really, as part of the season, like with the material trains can be available for players to use to summon bosses, I think we're going to start to see players begin to stress the systems that we have, and based on their feedback, it's going to advise a lot of how we want to like think about trading in the future for Diablo 4.
Yeah.
So that's going to tell us about like UI, UX enhancements we want to make, and just general like
아직도
improvements to the, like,
개선될
the
거는
kind
많은
of
것
things you can
같아요.
trade, stuff like that.
예를 들어
Yeah.
거래하는 것도 그렇고
Arcadium
디스코드에서 막
OW
거래하고
says,
그러잖아요.
Previously, the idea of permanently upgrading our Codex of Power with extracted aspects was discussed. Are you guys still interested or looking into this?
We want to make the Codex of Power better in ways like that. And we'll
아마
have
이번에
more
위상
share
추가되거나
on
그런 거는 다음 주에 공유가 될 것
And I
같습니다.
know there's a lot of people chiming in specifically in chat about like
밸런싱에
leaderboards,
대해서도 얘기가 나올 거기
which we've already
때문에
talked about. That is actually
다음
a
주가 더
season
중요한
three
내용들이 많겠네요.
feature.
오늘보다.
So, leaderboards are most definitely coming, and those will be available in season 3. Pugina TV says, "Do I need to buy the game again in Steam?" or
그다음
is there,
이제 순위표 같은
any
거는
source
시즌
use of it
3에
in Steam
추가가
if I
될
bought it
것이고
before? You don't need to buy the game again on Steam. It's your choice. If you prefer to play on Steam, you can. Or sorry, let me clarify. You do need to buy the game again on Steam if you want to play it on Steam. But if you already have the game, of course, you have the option of playing it on the other platforms, specifically from that front. There's some people that prefer to purchase games on Steam and have it available there. So they have that option now, starting with
스팀에서도 게임
season 2
팔아먹는
on October 17th when the game becomes available on Steam. So. Trying to think here. I've now lost track of where I was because I was going down a list. Legless Puppy again has another question. Diablo, or at Diablo, is there any changes planned for glyph experience cap, removing or increasing the level cap on glyphs? Will give us more reasons to run Nightmare Dungeons on repeat.
Yeah, I kind of answered this a little bit before. So we are looking at ways to make sure the players feel like they've got good progression opportunities.
이번에
once they reach,
똑같이
like,
이제
level 100.
문양
They've got
레벨에
some
대해서
resource
물어봤는데
systems. The exact contents of that, or like exactly what we're going to do, we're not ready to talk about just today.
Yeah.
But we are definitely aware of the interest in that particular solution, for example.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about the changes in Season 2 that relate to leveling up to 100. And a natural consequence of this is that more players are going to reach 100.
Yep.
And that means they need content to do. And that's something that we're spending a lot of time thinking about right now.
VZAT says,
아마 시즌 중간에 갑자기 문양 레벨이 풀릴 수도 있을 것 같은데 뭐 그거는 봐야 될 것 같아요.
No, the items that drop from Uber Duriel at that stage are not going to always be, like the rare items won't always be 920 eye power. They're going to follow the same range as if we were a level 100 monster. So there's still a 75 eye power swing on the rare item drops from Uber Duriel, or the Duriel, the King of Maggots, right? So that's really more the focus there. The unique items obviously will have a much tighter range than the 75 eye power swing of rare items, but the Uber uniques will always be at 920. But rare items, no, they will still have they'll still have a range. If you want to get a tighter range on rare items, then you can maybe potentially think about going and hitting Nightmare Dungeons of a higher eye power range, or a higher level range, because then you're going to start having the eye power min of the rare range start to go higher and higher with every new monster level that you fight.
A lot of questions about loot filters. Don't know if there's any plans or discussions.
이번에 루트 필터는 안 들어왔죠? 보관한
I'll
필터만
just
있었고.
acknowledge that being able to filter your loot is part of ARPG that many players enjoy, and we have heard that feedback, and it's something that we're exploring right now.
And then, let's see, there is a question from Misfit Dio, which is, will Nightmare Sigils rotate within the season, or will it be the same dungeons for the whole season?
It's going to remain the same set of dungeons for the season in the current format. We can talk about what rotating them more frequently would feel like. It would mean invalidating keys after a period of time, or having a smaller selection of dungeons overall that rotates more regularly. But right now, we've really focused on making sure that we've got the set of like 25 really exciting Nightmare Dungeons to engage with the season.
All right. And
뭔가
we'll
다
do one
명확하게
more
대답을 잘
question
안 해.
here, which is,
다,
actually,
다
you know,
뭔가
I know it's a
조금씩
question that, a lot of people
직답을
are
안
about,
하고
which is stash
뭐
tabs.
고민 중이다,
And because obviously we
추가할
have changes
거다,
here
뭐
for
그런
season
식으로
2
얘기를
that
하네요.
address a lot of inventory related concerns. Are there any plans for additional stash tabs in the future or anything to discuss today?
I don't have any announcements on additional stash tabs, but what I can say is that we've recognized that there continues to be a need, and that there will continue to be a need for more improvements to
정리요? 정리를 하긴 하는데 이번 스트리밍 같은 경우는 크게 뭐 그게 내용이 없거든요. 이 정도가 다인 것 같아서.
Awesome. So took a bunch of questions here, and we went through all the season 2 Season of Blood changes or new Season of Blood mechanics that are going to be coming for players on October 17th.
큰 내용이
Again,
없네요.
Season 1, which is Season of the Mold,
이것만 이
actually
정도만
ends
보시면
on
될 것
October
같습니다.
17th. And Season 2 starts also on October 17th. All the dates and times are actually going to be listed on a blog that will be live immediately after this live stream. I will note that the plan is for Season 2 to actually start at 10 a.m. Pacific on the 17th. So if you guys want to pre-plan schedules or anything like that, you have that ability of being able to do so now. So we will actually be back here again for a campfire chat on October 10th.
더 중요한 내용은 그 10월 10일 날 공개가 될 거라 다음 주 캠프파이어가 굉장히 중요할 것 같습니다.
Resistance updates that are coming in within the game, along with the damage bucket updates for vulnerable, overpower, and critical strike damage updates that are coming, plus unique item updates that we are going to be covering off. Of course, we'll have a Q&A associated with that. So there's a lot to talk about on the 10th as well. And I will note that we do plan on having patch notes available on the 10th immediately after that stream, so people can read through what is currently 41 pages of patch notes.
또 페이지 가지고 또 뭐라고 하네. 41페이지의 패치 노트래요.
Thank you guys for joining us. Again, Season 2 is October 17th, and again, Diablo4 will now be available on Steam. You can wish
그러네. 마법부여가
and it will be available with Season 2 when it
마법부여도 개선 사항이긴 하죠.
talk about on the 10th, and to talk about 121 on the 10th as well. Sorry, forgot about that. Our future plans with Season 2, and of course more to talk at BlizzCon. So thank you guys again from the whole Diablo4 team here at Blizzard. Appreciate you guys joining in, and we'll see you next week for the October 10th stream.
자, 이 정도까지 일단 얘기가 나왔습니다. 일단 자막은 좀 끄도록 하고 뭐 더 없죠? 이게 다지. 요들 시너지님 어서 오세요.
Like a little more area denial baked in the line and a much more difficult.
일단 맞아요. 10일 날 중요한 게 나올 것 같아요. 오늘은 그냥 좀 짜잘한 업데이트들이 많았고 일단 시즌 컨텐츠 잠깐 볼까요? 보면은 이제 여러 가지 그 피 능력들을 사용할 수가 있는데 지금 활성화된 거 4개라고 쓰여 있고 비활성화된 거 0개 그렇게 있습니다. 이 각각의 뱀파이어 힘을 여기다가 장착시켜 가지고 쓰는데
things that can trigger it and a few different actions.
The next thing I want to talk to players to play.
So there are a few different things that's cool.
저거를 활성화시키려면은 이 인장이 필요한 것 같아요. 이걸 어디서 얻냐면 방어구에다가 장착시켜 가지고 카운트를 한 다음에 그 다음에 이 뱀파이어 힘을 여기다 장착시켜서 사용한다. 이제 이런 식으로 그 팩트라고 해야 되나? 이거를 이제 방어구에 장착시키면 그만큼 카운팅을 먹을 수 있거든요. 보면 지금 해골이 하나, 2개, 3개, 4개, 5개, 6개가 있는데 지금 이 사람이 가지고 있는 해골이 6개잖아요. 이런 식으로. 그러니까 결국에는 저 팩을 그 방어구에 잘 배분을 해둔 다음에 내가 원하는 그 뱀파이어 힘이 있으면 거기다 이렇게 장착시키고 이 팩 개체수도 맞춰서 배분을 해줘야 되는 이제 그런 식의 시스템이 될 것 같습니다. 그 다음에 이제 각각의 그 팩 각각의 파워는 이제 특수한 기능을 갖는 거죠.
Pool of vampire powers they can collect. Present the symbols off on the line. Some are pieces
이제 이런 식으로 이제 각각의 뱀파이어 힘들은 특수한 그 능력을 갖습니다.
the players are collecting are items themselves, or rather.
그래서
it's like they
최대로
all have
장착시킬 수 있는 거는 5개까지 그렇게 장착이 되고, 그다음에 여기 추가적인 소모 자원이 하나 있네요. 요것 아마 요게 피의 수확을 가지고서 얻는 것 같은데, 이제 요거를 얻어야지만 슬롯을 개방할 수 있는 게 아닐까. 이 장착되어 있는 그 피의 그 힘을 업그레이드 하거나 아니면은 그 힘 자체를 언락 시킬 수 있다, 뭐 그런 식으로 써 있군요.
have these small present the various packs the players can gather all your vampire different types to fuel.
또 다른 문양. 근데 이제 문양보다는 되게 특수한 기능들이 되게 많은 것 같아요. 보면은 지금은 몇 개 안 보여줬지만 굉장히 여러 가지가 많은 것 같거든요. 그래서 본인의 빌드에 맞는 걸 잘 찾아가지고 조합하는 그런 좀 요소가 생긴 것 같습니다. 그래서 요게 어떻게 보면 이번 시즌이 굉장히 좀 중요한 게 아닐까. 일단 다시 말씀드리면은 이 팩을 모아야 되죠. 이 팩을 모은 다음에 이걸 방어구에다가 박아 넣어서 내가 쓸 수 있는 자원을 확보한 다음에 이 확보된 자원 안에서 내가 쓸 수 있는 이 뱀파이어 힘, 흡혈귀 힘을 사용해 가지고 이제 여러 가지 이득을 볼 수 있다. 이제 그런 하나의 요소가 되겠습니다. 이제 이게 이번 시즌의 핵심, 심장, 저번 시즌의 심장 같은 핵심 요소가 될 것 같아요. 그리고 이제 이런 그 흡혈귀 힘이 어떤 것들이 있는지도 좀 파악이 돼야 될 것 같고, 또 이게 예전처럼 뭐 각각의 클래스마다 뱀파이어 힘이 있는지 모르겠지만 어떤 식의 힘이 있는지가 굉장히 중요할 것 같거든요. 어떤 클래스에는 어떤 뭐 뱀파이어 힘이 따로 있는 건지 그런 것도 모를 것 같아서. 그죠? 던전도 이번에 개선이 좀 돼가지고.
Have a set number of packs associated with them.
예를 들어 이거 하나 보면은, 그러니까 이거는 피격을 받았을 때 당신은 주변 적들한테 그 공포를 줄 수 있는 그 확률이 생긴다. 그리고 그들을 감속시킨다고 해요. 80%만큼 감속시키는데 2초 동안, 뭐 그런 식의 능력입니다. 그다음에 그 공포가 있는 그런 적들한테는 이게 압도적 제압이었나? 제압된 그건가? 이거는 제가 해석이 좀 어려운데. 이게 뭔 소리야? You're guaranteed. 제압이 되어 있다. 제압을 할 수 있다. 그러니까 공포가 있는 그 적들한테는 제압을 줄 수 있다. 그런 의미 같거든요. 정확하게는 모르겠네. 보스는 아마 여러 가지 컨텐츠들을 하려면 잡아야 되는 게 맞는 것 같아요.
We'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. That these are going and completing other. That's kind of like the.
그리고 각각의 아이템은 최대로 그 팩을 박을 수 있는 개수가 정해져 있네요. 얘는 4개까지 박을 수 있는데 이것도 배분을 잘 해야 되는군요. 그래서 이제 이렇게 시즌 그런 것들 있었고, 그다음 이제 컨텐츠 관련한 그런 변경 사항들, 그다음에 짜잘한 변화들, 명망작을 이제 더 이상 안 해도 되고 뭐 그런 내용들이 있었고요. 그다음에 악몽 던전 변경 사항들, 엔드게임에서 변화나 아니면 이제 UI에 대해서 변화들, 아이템에서의 변화, 뭐 이런 것들 쭉 있었습니다. 일단은 제가 정리해서 영상화를 해야 될지 모르겠는데, 일단 방송은 여기까지 하고 또 낮에 방송 또 하면은 하고 그럴게요. 일단은 저 여기까지 하고 물러가 보도록 하겠습니다. 뭐 그렇게 오늘은 큰 내용이 없었고, 아마 다음 주에 굉장히 큰 내용들이 많을 것 같으니 그거 한번 같이 살펴보셔도 좋겠네요. 일단 여기까지 말씀을 드리고 다음 방송에서 뵙죠. 또 시청해 주셔서 감사드립니다, 여러분. 저는 물러가 볼게요. 감사합니다.